Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Thanks for dropping by my weekly workshop, coming to you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. For those new arrivals to our community, the weekly workshop features a compilation of my content from the last 7 days, including, but not limited to, inspiration for would-be side hustlers and full-time giggers, tool and gear reviews, and finding financial and lifestyle freedom through entrepreneurship. And also, if you prefer your content of the video variety, you can find it all at toolmantim.co. Thanks for taking the time to have a listen, and with that, let's dive into this week's edition of the Weekly Workshop. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Sunday night, which means it's time for our weekly live stream called Talkin' Tools. And this week, I've got a good one for you. But first, real quick, if anybody's listening to this on the replay, or if you're new here, anytime you want to know a little more about me, run by toolmantim.co. And if you want to support the content that I create, the easiest way to do that is run by the shop section. Take a look at all the different tools I recommend there and click on the Amazon link and do your shopping as normal. It costs you nothing and it'll support the channel. So thanks a lot, guys. So the idea for this week's live stream was all about winter prepping. The idea came out of a conversation on the Living Free in Tennessee MeWe chat group the other day, and I got asked my recommendation or opinion on the chintzy little window shrink wrap stuff that is supposed to insulate your windows, amongst a whole bunch of other things. So I thought that I would put together my list of the top 10 areas of preventative maintenance that I cover when prepping for cold weather. All right, guys, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. I finally got the hang of running that my intro during the live stream, so I hope you enjoyed it. I see where'd my comments go? There we go. Thanks for dropping in, Ken. Cell tower is up. We heat our cabin and water with wood. Always have several years supply of dry firewood on hand. And you know, people don't realize how important it is to have firewood on hand. Hey, Klondike, nice to see you. I'm going to bring up Ken's first before we dig in too much. But yeah, so several years of dry firewood on hand. Man, we used to burn around a dozen cord of wood every winter. And people didn't, if you haven't burnt wood, you don't realize how much you really need dry seasoned wood. Some people seem to think, hey, you know, in a grid down situation, I'm just going to run out into the woods and I'm going to chop a tree down and I'm going to cut it. Well, ash, I believe, was about the only wood we could ever do with that. It still bubbled and sizzled. But if you want to get efficient heat out of wood and not have to be fighting with your chimney and chimney fires all winter long, then make sure you got some dry wood on hand. And there's also, I don't know if you run into this, Ken, but I mean, storage is really important, but you can have wood that's old enough that it's really no good anymore. It's almost like the life goes out of it. It's either too dry or it's almost gotten spongy or gone past its usefulness, basically. And so, yeah, I guess there's that sweet spot where the BTUs are high enough. But yeah, especially if it's stored indoors or undercover, you're not going to have as much trouble with that. But yes, my dad always used to say that wood could be old enough that it would be no useful good anymore. So yeah. And Ken says he uses 5 cord of wood. So I would be, back in the day, I'd be jealous. But we used to burn about 12 and had a hell of a time even heating the house. But little Klondike says, all it means to me is I have to break out my long pants. Oh. Yeah. And I'm sure when Ted gets here, he'll be like, yeah, all it really means to me is that, I have to, I don't know, put on pants after 6 o'clock at night because Florida stays kind of warm, But so like I said, guys, tonight I wanted to and you know what? Before we get too far into it, I figured I would mention, some of this stuff you're going to probably be like, man, I'm never, ever going to use it. But I thought it might be a lot of fun for you guys to see or hear about my preparedness for the cold weather that we get up here. Because we really get like 6 months of the year where it's really cold. And, about 3 months of the year where if you're outdoors, unexposed or exposed, sorry, although that sounds kind of funny. But anyway, literally minutes in the worst of the winter. But yeah, so I thought I would share a little bit with you. And I mentioned the chat the other day. There was also a post on Facebook. If you guys know Glenn Tate, he did the 299 Days series. I used to be, hey, Joseph, nice to see you. Glenn Tate did the 299 Day series books. Anyway, he recently moved to Montana from Washington. And a couple weeks ago, he was looking for suggestions on how to survive the Montana winters. And so I figured I would chime in. I give him a little write-up. You guys will see a little video tomorrow about just keeping cars running in the cold. And yes, they are awesome books. I love them. I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic fiction and, collapse fiction, things like that. Some are better than others. Some are much worse than others. But that's another story for another night. Maybe we'll have to talk about that some night, Klondike. That'd be fun. I've got my Fluent in Sarcasm mug tonight, which is actually my daughter's, but I've inherited it because apparently I'm the most sarcastic in the family. But when I was putting this together, I had this thought, and I'm sure you guys have thought of it before too, but preparedness is prevention, right? So, Hollywood, the media, whatever, everybody like, oh yeah, you're just prepping for the zombie apocalypse, right? Well, it's really nothing to do with the zombie apocalypse. It's all about preventing the most common personal disaster from becoming an even bigger, full-blown disaster. And preparedness is all about preventing, doing things ahead of time, doing a little bit of work now to save you a metric shit ton of work down the road. Like say insulating your water pipes now so that when it's minus 40 out, they don't rupture, blow, and leak everywhere. So, but that thought, preparedness is prevention, has been beating around in my head the last little while. And it's absolutely true. It's the unsexy stuff. Hey, Ted, nice to see you. It's the absolute unsexy stuff that we do to prepare for even just seasonal changes that makes a big difference for us. Welcome, John. Mr. Palmer, how are you? Nice to see you. And I believe, hey, we got 8 people in here already. Nice to see you guys. I believe I finally kicked whatever this throat thing was, so I won't sound like an 80-year-old smoker tonight, just like my normal old self. So, and before we dive into my 10-point list here, we hit a huge milestone this week, which was really exciting. Something, in my brain, I knew we'd get there someday, but it's still huge. We hit 2,500 subscribers on the YouTube channel, which is absolutely incredible. To me, in my mind, 2,500 subscribers, that's a real channel. You always feel like a phony before that. Not really, but, it was just absolutely awesome. So thank you guys, especially you guys who are in here supporting me all the time. I absolutely appreciate it. Ted says, sounds like a lot of problems y'all got up there. Kind of chilly down here. Only got to 85 today. Oh, I imagine the iguanas were putting on their scarves and their toques, weren't they? Well, maybe you don't know what toques are, but those knitted hats. But yeah, so yeah, it actually got down so far. The reason, and thanks, Joseph, appreciate it. So for us, the whole idea up here, and I mean, it all shifts the further south you go, right? So the later and the later winter comes along, the later you have to do it. But for me, the idea is to get all of this stuff done before it's too cold to make it easily done or to make it way more difficult, So the whole idea, we just had Thanksgiving. I kind of use Canadian Thanksgiving weekend as kind of my, hey, better get up and get doing and get going and doing some stuff, So I'll get into the list, but last weekend we spent quite a bit of time doing a whole bunch of the seasonal changeover stuff. Is there a part of me that would absolutely love to keep the outdoor furniture out year round? Like I'm sure Ted can do down in Florida, but yeah, absolutely. But living up here where the cold can kill your face is just a way of life. It's all seasonal, things change and turn and we have to get into it. So anyway, so like I said, I got 10 areas that I wanted to talk about that I dig into when prepping for the cold. And the first one is winterizing all my summer gear. So you guys know, actually, this was a much easier chore this year than past years because, which was really cool. You guys know I've switched over to a lot of the DeWalt battery gear for my lawn care, which was just awesome. So there was a whole lot less small engines that needed to be winterized this year. But the process, normally goes one of a couple different ways. And maybe you guys have an opinion on this, but for a lot of years, I would run seafoam into my small gas engines, let it run for 10 or 15 minutes, and then put them away for the winter, basically. But then some of the other experts that I've listened to and read and, watched some of their videos, they say you're better off to drain the gas tank dry. I don't really know. I've always been the fan of keeping all the diaphragms in the carburetors wet, moist, and supple. Say all three of those words fast, 3 times fast. But anyway, so I like putting the seafoam in there. It's a good fuel stabilizer. And if it's only going to be 6 months, that's always been my way. But I did do a test last year where I drained quite a bit of the stuff, and it did seem to start up a little better this year. So anyway, I went back to adding seafoam. Not really sure why, but that's always been my thing. So if you guys haven't used seafoam before, it is the best. It's just a miracle. It lubricates your engine. It cleans out your carburetor. It's a fuel stabilizer. The stuff just works. So then if you got other stuff, with bigger gas tanks, that sort of thing, sometimes it's good to drain your gas tanks out. Excuse me, with my, my zero-turn lawnmower, try to get under, wash out the deck, get all that debris off so that it doesn't sit there and rust through the winter. Then it's a matter of digging out that battery, unhooking it. I actually, last year, I'm not exactly sure what I did or how I did it, but I went and bought a really expensive gel battery for my quad. We call four-wheelers quads up here. I'm not sure where that comes from, but anyway. So I bought a really expensive gel battery for my quad. I ended up, something broke down underneath and shorted out my battery and melted through the casing. So I ended up needing to rob my battery from my lawn tractor. And so I had to switch that back around this year and get my quad up and running for the occasional bit of plowing I have to do. So batteries are always key. For us, batteries freeze really bad, especially if they go dead. When the charge level goes down below half, they are really prone to freezing. And if they freeze, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to rehab them. So I haul the batteries out or disconnect so that things aren't going to drain. Take any of the batteries inside or, like in the case of my quad, make sure the trickle charger is hooked up because I have to have a battery in there in order for it to start. And if it's just sitting, as soon as that -40 hits 3 or 4 days, no matter what, it still kills those tiny little batteries. So I got to have that trickle charger hooked up. And John said, here we go. One of these comments, I bet. I didn't realize y'all had anything other than winter up there in the Great White North. Well, it did hit 109 degrees Fahrenheit this summer. So we absolutely do have summer. It's just rather short, but we really are almost typically a 2-season climate up here in Alberta. We really are winter and summer. We don't have a very long spring or fall. It just goes from cold to hot and then from hot to cold. This year we've had more of a gradual, which has been awesome. I've been able to get all my outdoor work done quicker for my customers. But honestly, yeah, we really do. We have a very, growing up on the East Coast, spring and fall were long seasons. Out here on the prairies, it's almost like somebody flicks a switch. It goes from nice, hot summer weather to overnight into the cold. We've gotten down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit here already. Solid freezing of the dog bowls out on the deck, that kind of stuff. So we just, it's like we flick a switch and it goes. So the opposite. So number 1 for me is winterizing all that summer gear. Number 2 is de-winterizing all the winter gear. So I have a C-can storage container out back that I keep all of my, just stuff that I don't use on an absolute regular basis. So of course I go in, I use it as an excuse to do some spring cleaning in the fall, but haul all my winter stuff out. So my quad comes out, my snowblower comes out, and my zero-turn mower, my push mowers, they all go into the front of the C-can. So of course, first thing you do for me, haul out the snowblower, give it a good inspection. So last year at the end of the year, I ran out of shear pins. And if you guys know how those augers, the augers go that beat up and chew up the snow, well, the last thing you want is for them to be rigid in there. And if they catch on something like a dead body, did I say that out loud? No. Anyway, if they catch on something, sucks it up into the auger. And if you don't have those shear pins in there, it's going to wreck everything. You're going to have a bad day and it's going to be expensive. So those shear pins, for anybody who doesn't know, the augers spin on an axle, and the shear pins are in there so that they're softer than any of the other parts, and they're the piece that's going to break. I ran out of them right at the end of last winter, so I ended up using a couple of box nails. If you guys know what box nails are, they're like a 2.5 or a 3.5 inch nail, but they're a thinner shaft, so you can actually almost bend them with your hand. I wouldn't recommend leaving them in there forever because, again, if you catch the wrong thing, you might end up breaking your augers or your drive shaft or something like that. So reminded me of Fargo. Yeah, that is true. I really like that movie, Fargo and A Simple Plan. You guys ever seen A Simple Plan? That's a good one too. Reminds me very similar to that. But yeah, so after this is on. So for the record, some of these items I haven't finished yet. And I put them on this list tonight. Number one, to give you guys ideas, but also for me to remind me of things I need to do. But, you know, I pull it out. And the same thing you do with any other small engine you've had stored for a while. But inspect the belts. Make sure, you know, a mouse didn't make a nest in the engine, didn't chew through the drive belts, any of that kind of stuff. If they're good, good. Try to keep an extra set of belts on hand. Then make sure you have extra shear pins. You can never have enough shear pins. I've picked up the weirdest things in my snowblower, and sometimes it's the oddest things. Like sometimes you'll get a stick, it'll drive itself up in, and everything will just stop. And you're like, good. And then other times you get a rock, I mean, not even a quarter the size of my hand, but it gets right up in behind those augers, and it just fetches up sharp in the chute and wrecks a shear pin. So you never know. But what you'll notice is, because they're independent, so you have 2 augers, one on either side. One will stop running, one will keep going. So you'll all of a sudden notice that when your snow is flying out of your chute, your discharge chute, you'll end up only having about half the amount of snow going through. So then you got to check and see, all right, replace the shear pins and keep going. But yeah. So again, check the backpack blowers. You guys know I love my backpack blowers. So I haul all those out, check them over. If they're running decent, I don't take them up to the shop and get work done to them. But I usually replace the spark plug every year, which is great for just about anybody who's doing small engine maintenance. Is, you know, keep a bunch of extra spark plugs on hand. Always a good thing. Yeah, I mean, they're cheap insurance, and it might save you getting a bad case of tennis elbow trying to start something simply because of a $2 spark plug. So keep those on. Learn how to clean out your air filters. Run some seafoam through your 2-stroke motors. All of that works really good. And then the quad. So that's the other. So I've got my my snowblower, my backpack blowers, and my 4-wheeler. And again, preparedness is prevention. I had some bad times with my quad / snowplow last year. So there's a few things I really needed to check on and make sure they were in good shape. There's skid feet on the bottom of the plow on either side. It keeps it from, say, digging right into, say, concrete or that kind of stuff. I ended up breaking one of those in half, or wearing one through and breaking it off, had to replace it. So, so Ted says he just Googled how far you are from me. 3,000 miles due northwest. Yes. I am much, much closer to Santa Claus than I am to you, Ted. We really aren't that far from the Northwest Territories, which is technically, you know, what you consider the North, or, you know, heading toward the North Pole. So yeah, it really does get cold up here. I'm not lying. I'll do some more videos this winter when it gets really cold, show you some of that stuff. Oh, and there's my daughter, Charlotte. How are you, sweetheart? Always love you coming in. So I hauled the quad out the other day, put the new battery in it, or the new to its battery. Check the feet on the plow. Those are good. I need to lubricate the joints. You know, that's one of those things. Things get dry. They seize up through the winter or through the summer. So you want to make sure everything's working. Mine's just a pull pin. Whoops. A pull pin style that you just pull up and you can move, which is really great. But plowing snow, you guys can kind of figure, is really hard on gear. And so keep an eye on your winch cable. I snapped my winch cable in half and had to do a repair on site last year. Real pain in the butt. Never a good thing, because that winch cable, in and out. I'm thinking about putting, if you guys have seen it, you can get some of them heavy duty rope that you can replace like the last 5 feet of your winch with. Way better than the aircraft cable that's on there, because the aircraft cable tends to, 1 or 2 little pieces end up wearing through. So sometimes the rope's just a little bit better. And then again, trickle chargers. You guys know I love those trickle chargers for the snow, or for anything with a battery, and especially in the cold weather. I have a solar trickle charger on the way. Chicken Hawk, when he was in here, I know you guys liked his interview on solar power, kind of got me interested. So I got one of those coming. Just bought a couple of deep cycle batteries as well. So we got a whole big, going to have a whole big solar setup going. We're going to see how well it holds up in the really cold weather. We'll see. Should be fun. But anyway, so I winterize summer gear. Number 2, de-winterize winter gear. Number 3, clean up the yard. This is one of those things that you don't think about when you're a kid, but it makes perfect sense when you're an adult. And I know, whatever, but first off, putting away all the seasonal stuff, because, it's not bad if things stay warm or lukewarm year round. But up here, that minus 40 can absolutely destroy stuff. So if you've got, we've got some nice seasonal outdoor furniture that we don't want to get wrecked. So it goes into my wife's shed, the chairs. We got nice fold-up chairs that if you keep them out of the cold, they last longer. Table, fire pit, all the dog toys. Yeah, because us and our dog toys. But yeah, so last weekend, that was one of the things we did over Thanksgiving weekend. Once we finished eating outdoors, all the chairs got folded up, our nice tables, everything, all stacked nice and neat out in the shed, where at least the freezing rain, the snow, the wind, all of that'll stay off. It'll still be cold, but as long as it's not touched, it's pretty good. And a big part of doing this, and of course, Ted, we'll pretend that the snow is sand here, because I know snow is kind of a foreign concept, but it's okay. But a big thing for us is to make sure we don't have any shit lying around once everything freezes. Because I want to tell you, anything you got sitting out, if it's on the ground, when it gets cold, it's staying there till the spring. So the first thing is it's going to be a tripping hazard all winter long. And again, preparedness is prevention. And the last thing you want to have is something that you got to remember to step over all winter long. Number 2, say I pull the snowplow or the snow blower into the backyard and I want to blow off the deck, but I left some crap on there and I end up sucking it in, say wrecking an extension cord, or again, wrecking my augers on something I just left out carelessly. So definitely something to think about. Make sure your ground, make sure all your high traffic areas are good and clear, good and level. It's all, it's crazy stuff that a lot of people in the rest of the world don't have to think about, but my goodness, it's true. Like even just a stupid little dog toy, like a stuffy, that thing will get rock hard. And if it's sitting there when it freezes, heaven help you, it's there all winter and you got to be careful. So now here's another one. And this is all kind of around spatial things, but have a plan for piling your snow. Now, on the prairies, we don't get the snow like I got on the East Coast. However, on the East Coast, you could get, 18 inches of snow one day, and 5 days later, it would be melted. It would be gone. So you needed to have a plan for piling the snow, but you could almost always count on the fact that it's going to melt and it's going to go away. Out here, unless we have a really weird winter, whatever snow we get November 1st is still going to be on the ground March 31st. And what that means is, even though we get most of our snow in half inch or inch increments, those piles get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're an awful lot like planting a tree. You put a tree in a spot in your backyard and you're like, man, that's perfect. I'm not going to lose any, no space. It's not going to encroach on anything. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, the tree's so big, it's into your cable lines and everything else. Snow piles the same way. You can start piling snow at the beginning of winter and think, well, I got all kinds of room. And by the end of winter, you're kind of thinking, well, I'm either going to, give myself a hernia trying to throw snow further up onto this pile, or the pile's going to be so big, it's going to be covering the sidewalk. So always got to think ahead. Make sure you've got a nice, big, flat area for piling the snow. And you know what? It works that way for me doing snow removal for customers as well. We had a couple of big dumpings last year that if we had got more than what we had, I'd have really ran out of room and I'd have probably had to hire somebody to haul some snow away. Now, here's another one that not everybody thinks of. Some people do, though. Put up your Christmas decorations early if you can. We have Remembrance Day up here, November 11th. I think is that Veterans Day for you guys? If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. Sorry about that. Actually, ask my wife. I hate putting up Christmas decorations. We now just do those those fake lights. You put them in the ground and they shine and they make it look like you got 1,000 lights on your house. Well, that's what we do. Again, make sure you get them in the ground before the ground's frozen. Otherwise, you're going to break them, wreck them, and then your wife's going to be mad at you. Also, if you got to climb a ladder, it's better to climb a ladder. Hey, there's Charlotte. Yes, nice. I see Charlotte changed her name. Anyway, that's my daughter right there, guys. So always better to get your Christmas lights up before everything's covered in ice and a slip and fall hazard. Just something to think about. Be prepared ahead of time. Get that stuff up. If they need to stay there till the spring, great. If you get a warm day in January and you want to take them down, also great. But why not eliminate one more chance of hurting yourself? You don't want to end up doing a Clark W. Griswold. Try putting up your lights a week before Christmas and end up, hanging off your gutters and falling down. Hey, Greg, how are you? If you guys haven't, anyway, I know I always brag him up, but you guys got to check out Greg's music. He had a killer song come out just about 2-3 weeks ago now, Greg? Incredible. Anyway, we won't go there tonight, but check him out. So yeah, like I said, where were we? Cleaning up the yard. Christmas lights, put them up early. Why not? You don't have to turn them on at all. Just have them up there. Save yourself a ton of trouble. So from there, I guess what are we at? 1, 2, 3. Number 4, my electrical and heating systems. These are, some days in the winter, a heating system, in some places in the country, if your heat isn't working, you're going to be a little uncomfortable. You might put on another blanket. You might put on another sweater. But my buddy Greg there, he can attest. If we don't have heat up here in the worst part of winter, it can literally be a matter of life and death. Maybe not in minutes, but certainly within a couple hours, things could not be good. So there's a lot of things I go around and check. So as far as electrical goes, and this will make more sense down the road, but I check my outside plugs are working. Right on. Nice to see you, Greg. I appreciate you always dropping in. So first off, I have to keep my car plugged in, right? We'll talk about that a little bit maybe tonight. Check out the video tomorrow. You'll find out a little more about what we use to keep our cars running in the winter here. But a good outdoor working plug is important. Check your GFI, your test, your reset buttons, make sure it's all working good. And if they're broken or, they're doing the old plugs hanging out the wall, hanging on for dear life just by the 2 wires, take a minute, fix it, or absolutely replace it. I just did that for some tenants in a property I manage. Just take a minute, change out the lights, change out the plugs so that you don't have to be out there freezing your baguettes off, Clark, when it's, minus 40. Ted says, sounds like, yes. So here, yeah, sounds like AC down here. Don't want to sweat to death. Absolutely. Every one of these principles can be taken and applied to all kinds of other systems. And that's what I love about it. The preparedness is prevention idea can work across the board for all of our home systems, and everybody has whatever could be an emergency to them. And that's what I like about this kind of stuff. So outside plugs working, make sure outside lights are working, because as you guys know, the days get much shorter in the wintertime, and everything you're going to do, you're going to be leaving in the dark, coming home in the dark. Things are going to be slippery. There's going to be snow to trip over. So make sure your exterior lights are working and fix them again before it gets too cold. And like I said, extension cords. Those are important for us to be able to plug our vehicles in so that, our oil pan heaters, our block heaters, our battery blankets, whatever we happen to have, are going to be running properly. Now, something else I mentioned, sometimes if you put an extension cord down on the ground on a warm day, and then you get some, say, a little bit of rain or some melt or some snow, all of a sudden it goes to minus 20. Your extension cord is now encased in ice all winter long. So if you need to move it, Plug it in somewhere different, you're hooped. It's stuck there. Then it's a good chance you're going to hit it when you run over with your four-wheeler plow. Done that before, ask me. Or even worse, you're going to dig that sucker up and you're going to wind it all around the blades inside of your snowblower. That auger is not going to like it. So I try to keep my extension cords up off the ground. Ask my wife. I don't always succeed at this. And sometimes I'm out there trying to pull my extension cords up out of the ice simply because I was just a little bit lazy. But anyway, so then that's the electrical end of things. Furnace end of things. And this is always simple. It should go without saying, but again, check your furnace filter. Take some time, replace it just before winter sets in. Now, if you have a furnace, whatever your heat source is, it's really important to make sure that damn thing's working before it gets cold, not when it gets cold. Because up here, we always have a joke. Tire places always have huge amounts of influx of calls and customers after the first snow. Nobody puts their winter tires on until after it snows the first time. So if you're going to have problems with your furnace, test it out a month before the cold weather. A month before the cold weather. That way, if you have an issue, you can get your service guy in before he's absolutely swamped with everything else. I'm going to share Ted's here in just a minute. You guys will appreciate this. So yeah, a couple of things about starting your furnace early. Number one, if you have a problem, you're going to be able to get a guy there to service it right away because he's not going to be fielding 10 other calls, 100 other calls from everyone else who left their furnace to the last minute. Number two, and for those of you, especially with forced air and also baseboard style heat, the first time you turn on your furnace, you're going to have dust. You're going to have that burnt dust smell in your house. So it's great to turn that on when it is warm outside. So you don't mind, say, and this might sound a little wasteful, but run your heat, open your windows, open your doors, and air your house out for the first half hour. So you're not giving yourself a headache on that first cold day, having to smell all that burnt dust. So just do that. And then one other thing that we're doing this year, and this would go good for, AC systems and stuff as well, but we're having our heat vents cleaned out this year by a reputable company. Be careful though, because there seems to be a lot of companies out there trying to do scams with that stuff. So Ted wanted to share with the community his absolute top winter preparedness tip. So I hope everybody appreciates it. But he says his best winter tip for me personally is to move to Florida. I did 21 years ago and haven't shoveled snow or scraped ice since. That is a great life pro tip, Ted, and I really appreciate it. I wouldn't make all my money like that I do, clearing snow up here, but I totally get it. Absolutely. So from there, so we've covered electrical, cleaning up the yard, winterizing and de-winterizing gear. The next one, and if Ford was in here tonight, he would laugh at me, but clean your eaves troughs. And if you don't know what eaves troughs are, I'm not sure if that's a British term, but that's what I grew up calling them. But they're gutters. And if you guys, Mr. Cornelius, here in West Virginia, folks generally leave them up year round. Leave which up year round, Ken? I probably missed it real quick. I'm thinking, Christmas lights. Yeah, I'm sure that's what you mean. Isn't that kind of a badge of honor in West Virginia? Because I know it was in rural Nova Scotia as well, and maybe some places in Alberta too. But anyway, so clean your gutters. If you guys saw me the other day, I was up on some roofs doing a bunch of customers, and a way to make that a lot easier, three things. Make sure it's not cold out, so the crap in there isn't frozen. Number two, make sure it's been dry for a few days so that your leaves and all your debris in there aren't wet, so that when you're cleaning them, you're not getting mud all over the house. And then number three, if you're comfortable enough and your roof's low enough slope, go right up on the roof, walk along with a blower, and blow them out. You're done in 10 minutes, only if you're comfortable with it. They do make, and I bought one of these a few years ago. It looks like a giant candy cane that hooks onto your backpack blower, and you can walk from the ground and blow them out. But I had problems with that because it faces down. It seemed to blow everything up and make a mess. Plus, you're not up there to see how well it cleaned them out. Either way, doesn't matter. But you want to get up there, check and make sure everything's flowing good. Get all the dirt, all the debris out of there. Then test your downspouts. So just because your downspout looks like there's no debris in it, something you're going to find out is, for somebody who's cleaned these out a lot, there could be something lodged halfway down. I had a customer call me one time and they're like, Tim, I cannot figure out what is wrong with my downspout. Every time it rains, the water runs up and over. Everything looks clear. So the fastest way to fix that is get out your impact gun, take those 3 or 4 Robertson screws off the downspout and open the damn thing up. And I did, and there was a badminton bird lodged halfway down in. And they didn't even know how it got there because they said they hadn't played badminton in their backyard for over a decade. So if it had, it'd been in there that long. So to me, instead of trying to fish down through all of those twists and turns, I have way better luck disassembling the downspouts and being able to physically open them and look through and make sure. Way quicker, just it does a better job. And if you're not sure, get a hose out, flush down those downspouts, and watch to make sure the water comes out free, clear, and dirt-free. Make sure that everything is just not, just that it's flowing properly. That's what you want to know. So next, for me, windows. And this is where the discussion started the other day. I think it was Jenny Hill. If you guys know Jenny, she was talking about the shrink wrap stuff that you put on windows. And then there was another person that chimed in, said they hated the stuff. I have kind of mixed feelings. So, okay, if any of you guys know about this stuff, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird too. So what it is it looks like Glad cling wrap or saran wrap that you put double-sided tape all the way around the frame and the inside of the windows. Then you try to pull the plastic as taut as you can, stick it all the way around. This is mainly for old non-double pane windows, the ones that are really drafty and stuff. Get it all stuck on there, and then you take a blow dryer and go back and forth, and it shrinks it and pulls it really tight. And in theory, it's supposed to create an air space. And of course, air is insulation, right? So, you kind of get like a 2 or 3 inch gap between the exterior window, the inside of the plastic, and it's supposed to, heat you up or at least make it not feel so cold. And about the best I found is that if you're standing in front of the window, you just don't feel as cold because instead of touching, that thermal, I'm not sure the exact term there, but when you put your hand on glass, it feels cold. It sucks the cold in from outdoors. But this offsets it a couple inches, gives it some room for that air to warm up. So that does help. I don't think it really saves you any money in the long run. I also think that it's really just something there for cats to play with. Ted says he used to use that stuff in Chicago when he was a kid. Yeah. And number one, you got to make sure once you put it on there, that shit's got to stay there all winter long. So there's no opening your windows. If cats, it is, right? So it's not perfect. It works good. I'm a huge fan of getting really heavy drapes, extra heavy curtains and putting them up there. I find that to me is the best of both worlds. It insulates, it allows you to keep things, warm, but also on a warm day, you can still open your windows. You can still have your daylight there, whatever. I like that. Now, some places, the place where my wife has her daycare, the upstairs is an old church and the windows on the north side haven't been replaced yet. So they actually took high density foam, cut it to size and fitted it in there. And I've done that for other customers too. So if you don't care about daylight coming through your windows, a way more efficient way to do that is to either take like insulation or high density insulation, cut it out, put it in there. Or, look into getting storm windows installed, or even better, go back in and have all of your old windows replaced. To me, that's sometimes a better option. But again, once winter's here, it's a little too late to do that. I actually have to install 2 windows later on this week for a customer, and I'm still pushing it, but it'll be warm enough. You guys see this? Every time I put the cup up here, it makes the screen go red. It's kind of funny. But yeah, give special thought, at least for us, your north-facing windows, the ones that don't get any daylight, any sunshine all year or all winter long. Just whatever you do, if you have to install some extra stuff, look on your north side. So from there, the next area I always look at is plumbing. And this is, as a property manager, and Joseph, if you're still in here, I know you guys, he had to deal with this like crazy last year during the wicked ice storm that you guys had down south, or the cold snap, I guess we'd call it. But up here, literally if the power goes out or your heat goes off in the dead of winter, it could be minutes to maybe an hour before your pipes freeze. And I look after quite a few mobile homes. And, you guys ever hear the story about basically once you hit the dead zone, I can't remember, it's called the dead zone, whenever the highest zone is on Mount Everest. So basically from the minute you step foot into there, your body starts dying until you get back out of that section. And a mobile home's kind of like that with its plumbing. It's like all winter long when it gets cold like that, the plumbing wants to revert to a frozen state. And everything you do is just trying to prolong that, process. So we wrap our pipes. We put them in that, you put that foam insulation all the way around the pipes. Then you wrap it in bubble insulation. Then you tape it in tuck tape. But before you do all of that, you usually put some heat trace tape in there. And if you guys have seen that, those are like long extension cords. You wrap around, don't twist it around, run it straight along the pipe. And once it gets below a certain temperature, it heats up. It usually has a light on the end of the plug. All of that works really, really good. And on some of my rentals, do not forget about sewer lines. They freeze too. You'd think there's no way. Yeah, there is. 2 years ago at Christmas, -40, the customer called me and said, my toilet will not flush. And apparently they'd been away for the weekend. I don't know what happened. Anyway, it was froze solid. We were 2 weeks until we could really get it thawed out. I'd get it thawed out and then it would freeze. I'd get it thawed out and then it would freeze. It ended up being a real low spot in there. We insulated that, but yeah, it's like a whack-a-mole game. When you insulate one area, the cold finds its way into another area. So do what you can to seal up any cracks, any areas that wind can get in, insulate, heat trace, heat lamps, anything you can. Water bowls up here, if you have a dog who likes to be out in the cold, make sure that you got a heated water bowl. Make sure they have heat lamps, insulation for their dog kennel, the whole works. And again, once before winter sets in, test your heat trace tape. Make sure it's working. Buy yourself some of those little $3 or $4 adapters you can get at Amazon or from Amazon or Home Depot that plug in and give you light so that that's a working plug, or that that on the other end of your heat trace tape, yep, it's got power all the way through. That's the type of stuff that is going to save you a ton of time, swearing, and headaches down the road. Absolutely. The next one is automotive. And I could probably do an entire episode on winter automotive prepping, but I'll try to keep my yammering to a minimum because there's so much to talk about. So first off, you guys have seen my video. We did one recently about our automotive emergency preparedness kit. Now for me, I've tried to build one that is year round, something that really doesn't mind the heat or the cold. However, a lot of people have separate kits for the winter and the summer. So, number one, do an audit of your kit. Make sure you need to change things out. If you need hand warmers or whatever, put them in there. Snow brushes are some of the cheapest preparedness items a Canadian or a Northern American can buy. And for whatever reason, I do not know why, if I put 3 snow brushes in my garage in the spring, next fall when I need them, there's only one left. I don't know where they go. I think they go to the same place that the socks in the dryer go, because snow brushes in my area just disappear. I literally put them in the same place and they just go. So take some time. I always, whenever I find, and this is one of my tenants, life tenants, but buy seasonal stuff at the end of the season. So at the end of winter, go and buy yourself 5 or 6 snow brushes on clearance and just throw them up overhead in your garage and you have them. Because to me, there's nothing more important than being able to scrape that ice and snow off your windshield when you want to get going in the morning, wintertime. Something else, switch over from bug wash to winter antifreeze or winter washer fluid. This is something that can happen quick. I've seen it happen. So try to pay attention. If you're getting low in, say, September on bug wash, let it run out and then fill it up with your winter stuff then, because I've actually had it happen to me where I've waited too long and I went to spray my windshield and my reservoir was frozen solid. And there is supposed to be room for expansion in there, but if some of that's in the lines, you can have a really bad day. Something can split, pop off. So I have to make sure that I have my winter antifreeze windshield washer fluid in the truck. And then, of course, I always throw an extra jug under the back seat. Some people just use it year round, the winter stuff. It's a little more expensive and it doesn't work on bugs quite as well, but it's a pretty good way to kind of stay on top of things. Now, me personally, living here on the prairies, we run all seasons tires. Not a big deal. On the East Coast, where the snow's wetter and we get lots of it, winter tires to me was way more important. It gets cold enough here that we honestly, the ice actually gets sticky. Once it gets below kind of -10, -15, you actually get more traction on the ice. And I like that. It makes it easy to travel around, and we don't get a lot of snow. And they kind of plow our roads here, but they kind of don't. They actually let a good hunk of ice get on the roads here because you get better traction. And then it's just sand on top of it because it's way too cold for salt to work here. No ice melt will work below -20. So they don't even bother, because all it does is, say it warms up to -20 one day, or say -10, you put salt down, it starts melting, turns to water, and then boom, it gets cold again, and it just makes more ice. So we don't bother. We just use sand, let it get a good, nice, hard pack down on the roads, and then they just kind of skim the fresh stuff off the top, and it makes for easy traveling. Hasn't bothered me a bit. I like the winter out here way better than the winters on the East Coast with the wet, heavy snow. Think about it. Take some blankets, put them on your back seat, put them on your front passenger seat, just so they're there, just in case you get broken down in the middle of winter. And I've talked about all this. I don't want to go too much into it. And then some people actually run a thinner weight oil in their vehicles in the wintertime. So if you do, now's the time to switch out. And then my garage, this will be number 7. My garage. So it is heated. I did install a furnace last year, but I only heat it when I'm out there. So again, there's a lot of things that need to come in the house. I bring in my pressure washer. I bring in my pump sprayers, my garden hoses, and my spray nozzles, because it does not take a whole lot of cold to freeze something, split something, and end up having, something you invested a lot of, money into wreck just like that. So I bring it all in, put it in the basement where it stays warm. That way it saves me from having to winterize any of that stuff. Paint, drywall mud, caulking, spray cans, anything that's going to freeze. I throw it in a couple of my, what do they call it? My Manly Tupperware containers, otherwise known as milk crates. Put all my paint and all that gear in there, bring it inside, put it on the shelves for the winter. And then as I need it, just take it outside and use it. But I've ruined more garden hoses, more spray nozzles, and more garden hose adapters by basically being a lazy ass and leading things outside. Yes. So Ted says, yeah, let's bring this up and talk about this, because I'm going to do some more testing with this whole concept. But yes, it is true. So Ted says, do not forget to bring lithium ion batteries inside when it gets really cold. So lithium ion, so here's the thing, through personal experience and some research, especially when they are drained. So lithium ion does not like cold when they're drained. If they're fully charged, it's not as big a deal. However, it isn't a bad practice to keep that stuff indoors in the wintertime. Now, last winter, I kept most of my DeWalt batteries in the garage in the cold. What ends up happening is the runtime out of the batteries gets shorter. If they're fully charged, it's not a big deal. However, if you bring them in and try to charge them while they're cold, all you're going to end up getting is the blinking red light on the charger. So this year, I'm going to try to bring the whole system inside. It's just, I've actually done a couple segments on the Survival Podcast on this thing. I'm sure I'm right. Here's what, yeah. So Joseph, yeah, maybe we should talk about this a little bit, guys, because to me, it's something that I struggle with. Joseph says, I'm sure I'm wrong for doing so, but I never remove mine from my truck or trailer ever, even in the -30 stuff we had. I do keep them all charged though, so I don't know. So yeah, this is absolutely the case for me as well. They're tools, they're things that I need to be able to use, I need to have access to, and I want to be able to use them when I want to use them. In the garage is the place where my tools stay. In the garage is where most of my batteries stay. And in the garage is where I do most of my work or load up to go do my jobs. So to me, bringing them inside, we don't have, my house is kind of a weird setup. We don't have a back porch. It opens right into the kitchen. The only place that I could keep all of my batteries where the wife wouldn't bitch at me would be in the basement, which means every time I drain a battery, I'd have to take it to the basement, plug it in, bring it up. That's where I am right now, which is okay, except that's a real pain. And when I'm working in the garage, I would have to come in through the backyard, down the stairs, get a battery and switch it out. So I'm okay with possibly losing a few recharge cycles, and I'm okay with maybe shortening the life overall of the batteries or even just the runtime a bit by having the convenience of keeping them in here or in my garage. I'm probably going to do that again this winter. I may do a side-by-side comparison test, but it really does, like, it'll get into the mid -30s and stay there for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. But to me, the convenience of having those batteries out there, and they are robust, they really do work well. And in my limited experience, I found that those lithium ions still hold up pretty good. Recommended to bring them inside? Absolutely. Best practice to bring them inside? Yes. Do I do it? Not really. Why? Well, there are a lot of reasons. I've thought about building a heated box for them. I may end up needing to do something like that because like I said, I'm looking to set up a solar system to basically put my garage off the grid. And I think those deep cycle batteries won't like the cold a whole lot. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do with that as well. But yeah, just something to think about. And Ted says, I don't know either. Only gets down to the 50s here at night in the worst of winter. See, he just loves to humble brag about how nice it is in Florida and how good eating the iguanas are, but I do appreciate that, Ted. But yeah, so I don't know, anyone else who has an opinion on it. A tool is a tool in my opinion. And it is true. Like, do we spend, I was going to say hundreds of dollars, but do we spend thousands of dollars on cordless tools and batteries? Yes. Are they made to be used? Yes. Should they be abused? Probably not. But to me, those batteries, like, I'm going to use them more and I'm going to need them more in my unheated garage than if I kept them in the basement down here where it's warm. So, huge debate, huge point of contention. I would love to hear other people's thoughts on it because I know 100% it's better for lithium batteries to be stored in the warmth, but I also know that they still work good enough in the cold. I will say the old Milwaukee I had from quite a few years ago didn't like the cold a whole lot. And sometimes if I tried to start it when it was really cold, it would make kind of a burning smell, which I'm sure is not healthy. But that drill's still going good. And my daughter Gracie uses it. She inherited it from me when I made sure that I switched over to completely yellow and black. Please don't tell anybody I used to use Milwaukee, but no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so the stuff still does work. The DeWalt batteries seem to hold up really well in the dead cold. And I'll probably do a bunch of videos on that this winter just to really see. But for me, like you said, Joseph, a tool is a tool is a tool. So, so snow chains were legal. Not a bad idea at all. That is one of those. So heading, if you go a little further west from us, you'll start hitting the Rocky Mountains. And there are places there where trucks legally have to have snow chains on. In our area, I'm not sure what the legality is. I do know that tire chains are a big deal in the wintertime, in the spring, in the oil patch. We used to use them quite a bit. They're not legal on grid roads though. So because they tear up that stuff a whole lot. But yes, tire chains, snow chains are huge in areas where they're needed and legal. And Joseph says, let's check this out here. Law of diminishing returns is the way I look at it. My time is worth more than unloading the whole mess every night, I think. There's probably 20 DeWalt, 15 or so Festool, and maybe 10 Milwaukee ones. And that is true. I look at it the same way as my garage is where I do all my work. Would my tools be slightly safer inside my fence in my basement? Yes, they would. However, if I put them in there, I'm not going to be using them as often as I need to. So yeah, same idea. Absolutely. And you're right, Joseph. What's the only asset that we can't get more of? And that's time. So any time that we can, stop using the word time here, Tim, but any way that we can shorten up or make things more efficient, the better off we'll be. And that's true. And I'm okay with, I think if I remember correctly, I got to go back and look at my notes. Maybe I'll do a follow-up on this down the road, but I want to say it would shorten the life by about 20% by exposing them on a regular basis to temperatures below -20. And for you, Joseph, I don't think, you wouldn't hit -20 too many times on, but you would some. But for me, yeah, I like that whole idea of law of diminishing returns, because you can set up, there's such thing as the perfect system, and there's a such thing as the most practical system. And the perfect system would be taking everything inside anytime it's going to get below freezing, bringing it back out when I need to use it. However, that's not practical to me. And you guys know I'm a huge fan of setting up a system that I can set it and forget it. The less that I need to do in a system, the better off I am. And if I need to keep my batteries, Joseph says his caulk is all in. I'm not going to make a joke there, but you're absolutely right. Yes, because there's nothing that gets worse than frozen caulk or paint or drywall mud. Drywall mud's the worst when it freezes in one sustainer and goes in nightly. Yeah, that's really what you have to, because one freeze and that stuff is ruined. And that's a huge investment there too. But yeah, anyway, I talked about those batteries a lot. Maybe we'll talk about them a bit more down the road. I hated to dwell on it, but it seems like something that everybody's kind of interested in. And it is, to me, I need to have my tools where I'm going to work, and I need a system that I can work with. And I don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time tracking down all my batteries. Joseph says, dang, return button sends a message every time. Not used to that. That's okay. Yeah, I know. I get it. It's all right. I love live chat's great, but I do the same thing. So where do I go from there? So my garage, we covered all that ad nauseum for sure. Seasonal stuff. We take down our pool the 1st of September. I know that must sound insane to you guys where it stays a lot warmer, but honestly, the overnight gets cold enough, even when the first week of September, that the kids just don't enjoy the pool anymore. So it comes down, drain everything. That sand pump that you guys seen me do a review on this summer, that's inside. Again, because I can't trust myself to get all of the water out of it. So I'd rather just bring it inside and not have to worry about it. I actually do a lot less winterizing than a lot of people I know. I just bring in anything expensive that has a chance of freezing, and I bring it in and put it in my basement. Makes life a lot easier for me. Take all my pool chemicals. They all go into another piece of male Tupperware and set them aside for the winter. This year, with the new hot tub that we have, that's a permanent fixture out back, we keep a little more of that up there. Again, last weekend, over Thanksgiving weekend, I gave my hot tub one final cleaning. They do recommend about a draining every 3 months. Not going to happen for us. There's no way that I'm going to drain a hot tub in -40 weather and hope that I get it refilled and warmed up in time that something doesn't freeze or split. So I gave it a good draining. I realized I didn't have a good pump for that. So of course, who did? Amazon. I ordered one. Didn't get here in time. I siphoned everything and hand bombed all the water out. But you guys will see a review on a really good utility pump coming up down the road that I'll use for draining my hot tub. But I give it a good scrub. The whole works. Then if you guys have any campers, we have Brian from the Lots Project coming on. I want to say November 7th. You'll see I think we even have it scheduled on the live stream page. He's coming on to talk about RV living. But for us here in Alberta, people spend, I seen a camper, well, an RV. A friend of mine used to say RV stood for Ruins Vacations, but we like them. Anyway, there's a guy here selling his today for $170,000. Just blows me away. But anyway, So you want to be able to protect that investment. So for me, quite a few things I ended up doing with the camper this year, always every year, but I take the battery out, bring it inside. Last thing I wanted to do is to get cold, frozen, split, wreck that really nice deep cycle battery I have. I normally disconnect the propane as well, take it into my garage because I use 30-pound propane tanks for my garage heater anyway. So it just gives me a chance to cycle it out, use the tank. And I don't like the idea of having propane hooked up there, even though I'm sure it's totally fine. When I bought my camper, we got a killer deal on it simply because the person before us didn't take the time to drain the hot water tank, split the hot water tank right in half. And it would have been about $1,000 to have someone install a new hot water heater tank and everything. I ended up buying the tank itself on Amazon for about $110, made some modifications, changed it out, fixed everything up. So, first thing I do, make sure the hot water tank is drained. The blow-up plug, I just take it out and I throw it inside in a drawer so I know where it is in the spring. Although I'm going to need a new plastic blow-up plug this year because I got mine stripped out. Then the next thing, and I got this really cool little system that hooks into the DC pump in the storage tank for the RV, and it basically sucks the antifreeze out of the jug and pumps it into all of the fixtures in the camper. And if you've never winterized an RV before, it's way easier than you think. Just make a mental list of all the different fixtures that take water in your camper. Pump, use that pump to pump antifreeze into the lines, and then go to each tap. I go to the kitchen tap, I open the cold, it's going to spit, so be careful. Wait till the pink runs nice and dark so all the water's out of there and it's just antifreeze. Turn the cold off, turn the hot on, and then repeat the same process. And a lot of people say dump some down in the trap as well, but you've already done that because you're draining, your taps are draining into the sink while you're using it. Then I go into the bathroom, make sure you do the tub fill tap, then also the shower head, hot and cold for both, the bathroom sink, and then don't forget the toilet. And then the last thing that some people forget is I think they call it the municipal hookup. So if you pull into a campground and there's a place where you would hook your garden hose into, that has a spring-loaded valve on it. So you can go outside, make sure there's nothing hooked up to it, put a stick, a screwdriver, your finger in there, and what's going to happen is the pressure in the lines is going to force the water out. Be careful you don't get wet, and wait till the antifreeze runs out of there as well. And then you're done. You're ready to put that antifreeze or the camper to bed for the winter. And if you guys haven't seen that stuff, it's pretty cool. It just looks like, red colored antifreeze at the moment. But when it gets to -40 and you go to pour it, it never freezes and expands. It just turns to kind of like a slush. So it looks like I wouldn't drink this, but it looks like a 7-Eleven Slurpee when you're done. It's kind of cool. That's the 10 things that I look at or that I prepare for when dealing with winter. And I thought I'd mention just a few little tools that I've bought over the years that have made winter preparedness a little better for me. The first one is an infrared thermometer. This thing has been huge. So when I go into, say, like a mobile home, somebody says, hey, my lines are frozen. I don't know what's going on. The good news is, unless they've been froze for weeks and they just froze over in the last few hours, there's really going to be just a single blockage of ice somewhere in that line. It might be 3-4 inches long, but it's not going to be, the entire line's not going to be frozen. So what I used to do was I used to go in there with, say, a blow dryer and just run up and down the lines. I'd never be able to find it. Buy yourself a good, there's John. I'll talk about that in just a second here. So buy yourself a good infrared thermometer that has a laser on it. And so what I can do now is if somebody calls me and says, I have a frozen line, I can point that laser at the line from 10 feet away, run it the whole way along the line, and it'll tell me once it gets to 0 or 32, the frozen part, you'll know right where to concentrate your heat gun on, and you can save yourself a ton of time. And tool number 2 is a heat gun. Be careful of its PEX pipe because, well, you do not want to melt your water lines, but if it's frozen, there's a good chance you probably won't melt it unless you're putting it right on top. But use your heat gun right in that area, concentrate it going back and forth, up and down, so that you're heating the area, but you're not concentrating the heat in one tiny little spot. And then there's a good chance you're going to unthaw, but be persistent. Sometimes it's taken me over a solid hour of just kind of going back and forth with the heat to make my, to get rid of that frozen plug. So John asks, talking about clearing out RVs. So there's really two ways to do this. I've always been the straight antifreeze type person. Anyway, I've never really set up. There's two ways. Let me backtrack a little bit. But when you go to winterize an RV, there's kind of two schools of thought. Number one, fill the entire area with antifreeze so that nothing can freeze and expand. Or the other one is to completely vacuum out the lines. I use the word vacuum, but to get rid of every bit of water in there, and then you don't need to worry about it. For me, I just don't trust myself enough to believe that I've blown out all the lines all the way around. I always think there's going to be some water left. So what some people do is hook up a compressor, pump them lines right full of air, and blow every bit of water out. And that's all you need to do. Or you can do what I do, and I pump them lines right full of antifreeze and leave it in there. That's what I do. Some people, I suppose you could combine them, but most people I know either do one or the other. Either blow the lines out or fill them full of antifreeze. And for me, this will be the fourth winter that we've had this RV, and I haven't had, that was me knocking on wood, I have not had an issue with a frozen line, a split line, a ruptured line, anything like that. So my systems work good, but I know lots of people, if you're to go to the local RV dealerships, when they winterize your campers, they completely drain and blow out all the lines. That's what they're comfortable with. But for me, it just seems like pumping antifreeze in, there's less room for error for me. So they blow theirs out and add a gallon of antifreeze. I could live with that too. I mean, that to me, that would be, just covering your bases a little bit better. But I've had really good luck, like I said, with that little DC. It's a splitter. Maybe if I remember, I'll post the link in the description later on. But it basically allows my DC pump to act as a pump to pump all that antifreeze in. And it's worked really good for me. I also, being that I do a lot of property management, I keep a bunch of lighted end extension cords on hand, heat tape, pipe wrap, and space heaters, because I have one mobile home in particular that I look after that tends to have a frozen bathroom every single winter. And one thing that you can do is open things up. So we have it set up so that the hot water tank, the door can come off where that's stored, and the door to underneath of the tub is stored. And if somebody's staying there, I'll put on one or two electric space heaters and let them run. Don't ever do that, if there's nobody home, because something can always go wrong. But space heaters are a man's best friend when doing property management. So let them run, let them fill up the empty space and warm things up, because sometimes that's all it takes to get your water running again. Or, in a really, really cold night, sometimes it helps to open up those areas and just apply that extra heat with a space heater. So something to think about for sure. I keep all that stuff on hand. I've kind of built a collection over the years. Simply, somebody will call and say, I need you to come do this. So I needed a heat gun. I need you to come check out these lines. So I bought an infrared thermometer. I need you to, I keep 5 or 6 space heaters now, because sometimes we'll go in, secure a bank property, but they won't give us permission to winterize it yet, but they will allow us to at least put a space heater into the certain areas. I don't know. It's a weird way of thinking, the way they do business, but it is what it is. And they say, hey, go ahead and put a space heater in. To me, letting a space heater run 24/7 for 2 weeks between checks on the house is way more dangerous than, going ahead and winterizing it. But they're the boss when it comes to that stuff. So have any of you guys, have you ever had any really bad experiences with something freezing and wrecking, or anything else that you ended up, I don't know, or maybe any other tips you haven't shared yet? Because I like hearing that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun to me. that was kind of the end of my list. If you guys have other things you want to share, throw them up there. But I was just going to tell you a couple of things, random thoughts or things that I had just recently. If you guys follow me on social, me and the missus spent the day out of town yesterday, and I went to my favorite big box home improvement retailer, Home Depot, picked up some new tools. The one I am super excited about, you guys seen me talk about the DeWalt Tough line that they announced this summer. I picked up a 35-foot DeWalt Tough Series tape measure with none of them fake metric units. It's 100% Freedom units because that's all I ever measure in anyway. But that thing is supposed to be tough enough to survive a 100-foot fall. And if I can find something around here that's 100 feet tall on the prairies, I may just test it out just to see. But I'm pretty excited to put that up side by side to test it out with my Stanley Fat Max. I think it's going to be kind of cool. And if you guys have seen as well, I've asked for some recommendations on what I used to call scissors, but I have now been informed are actually called shears. There's a difference. I'll talk about that someday too. But I am looking for, these are my requirements, I guess. But I'm looking for a buy it for life pair of shears or scissors, made in America, hopefully under $40. That, again, buy it for life. Buy it once and they'll last. Now, I did pick up a pair of Milwaukee shears yesterday at Home Depot as well. Made in China, but these things seem like they're built like a brick shithouse. I love them. I used them today just to open up a bunch of packages while the wife and I were baking. But I've got a few pairs. I can't remember. Ted, was it you that recommended to me the Wolf scissors? Because I've got a pair of them coming. Anyway, I found two different pairs on Amazon, made in America, under $40. Look like they're a buy it once, cry once, even though $40 really isn't that bad. But I'm going to do a head-to-head test and see what pair comes out that I can recommend as a buy it for life American-made product. Because I say American-made because there's not a whole hell of a lot of products being made in Canada. So North American made is the next best thing. Another product I picked up just recently is a handheld carbon monoxide detector. It's red. I think I paid maybe about $40 on Amazon. The thing's awesome. I actually got to use it already as well. I got thinking after we had our little scare here with the carbon monoxide alarm going off that I really wanted one because I do a lot of property management and I like to be able to, I want to be able to walk in and if there's something going on, I want to be able to, know it. So anyway, I got a call from a tenant's parents who were kind of worried about him. This person was acting a little bit strange. It turned out this wasn't the issue, but the doctors were concerned that maybe it was carbon monoxide poisoning. And they want to know, number one, did we have a working detector in there? Of course, the answer is yes, because it's a rental. But, who knows? Maybe it was defective. So I was able to go over, walk around, let the machine do its sniffing, and never found a bit. The house was completely clean. And I did test it on my hot water vent and on the tailpipe of my old Dodge, and the thing went off like a bugger. So this thing's really cool. You'll see a review on it next month, but I've put it to good use already. And it's something that gives you a bit of peace of mind, which is, I love those little gadgets. And I don't know, did any of you guys see DeWalt's new announcement? I bet Ted did, but for the Power Stack batteries, I think they're going to be a legit, really cool new product. They look like, I don't want to say a scam. They don't look like a scam, but they almost look like they could be too good to be true. But instead of using cylindrical, hey, I said that word the first time perfect, but instead of using cylindrical cells, they're using pouches, which I guess have been really popular in RC racing cars for a long time. So what they're able to do is the rechargeable cells are now going to be in pouches inside of their batteries, which is good. Basically give twice the life, but in a smaller, more compact style. The first battery they announced is a 1.7 amp hour for $120 US. So I thought that was really cool. Hey, Sean, how are you? I didn't just noticed you in here. He asked me a question. What gas cans do you use? I just can't seem to find one that is decent. So here is the issue. And maybe clarify for me, Sean. I'm guessing you're probably in the States because I'm one of these wacky Canucks. This is one of the few things. Yes, lithium polymer pouches, Ted. That's right. That's those new DeWalt Power Stack batteries. So in Canada, I think actually this is one of the few areas where we have a better product than our American counterparts. And guys, if I'm wrong on this, please stop me. But all I have heard for the last 5 or 6 years has been those, are they the EPA rated gas cans and how much of a piece of junk they are. In Canada, about 10 years ago, they decided to eliminate the vent cap on the back of our gas cans. And when they did that, they went to this stupid two straw system, I call it, so the outlet nose or nozzle, whatever, it ended up, they put a second one. So it's kind of like having two straws there. They put an extra hole in it. But what ended up happening was when you'd pour it would go glug, glug, glug. So a couple of years later, they switched back and put the rear vent back on the gas can. So in Canada, we have two brands. We have Wedco and we have Scepter. I like Scepter way better. I don't know if you guys can get the Scepter cans in the States or if you could even order them from Canada to the US, but I've standardized with those. I love the parts. I love the nozzle on them. The rubber seals do tend to wear out a little quicker, it seems. And so they do leak, especially when they're, exposed to hot and cold temperatures a lot. But I think, Sean, from what I've seen, if you can go to a Army surplus store, for instance, and get a used NATO gas can, if that's still a thing, NATO gas cans are incredible. And they're standardized. They're in the US and Canada. And I've seen them up here and I love those things. I would love to get into them. But man, even the Army surplus stuff is super expensive. But yeah, so if you can find yourself a good NATO gas can, if you're still legally allowed to use them, which I think you probably are, check those out because I think that's probably going to be the EPA ones just snap constantly. But yeah, so yeah, try the NATO ones at an Army surplus. You might have some luck. If not, there we go. Oh man, hey, Know Your Joe, how are you? Thanks for chiming in as well. Scepter can be found at Walmart in the US. So here's the thing. And again, guys, if I'm a little bit off on here, just correct me. But if my gas system, I standardize on Scepter, so I keep the extra parts in stock. But if they have those stupid EPA nozzles on them, go on Amazon. Even so, if you can't get them from the States, go on Amazon.ca, and I'm sure you can buy a bunch of those Scepter nozzles, just the standard ones. I can't imagine there'd be any restrictions on importing them, but I love them. They hold up pretty good. I get 3-4 years out of them. If they start getting cracked or bent, I just replace them. But Scepter has been my go-to gas can for a lot of years. They're built better. The Wedco, it's either Wedco or Wedgeco, I can't remember. I find two things I don't like about them. Number one, the ring that tightens the nozzle down, they're hard on the hand and they don't tend to fit those threads very well. And then the fill nozzle is like those, those stupid accordion things that you used to be able to pull out and spin around and they'd make funny noise when you're a kid. Well, that's what these are. They're made to be more flexible, but it introduces a whole bunch of like structural non-integrity, basically weak points in the nozzle that doesn't need to be there. And they tend to wear out, snap, and break all the time. So I don't like them. That's why I've gone with Scepter for a lot of years. So thank you, Know Your Joe. I learn as much from these live streams as I share with you guys because, it's kind of tough. Like you think Canada is just, it's just right there. It's right next to the US, but there's so many of these little tiny differences that each country have, but yeah. And then I had a few announcements to share too, guys, but if you have other questions while I'm talking, feel free to throw it up. Here we go. Know Your Joe says, do you know of a way to auto start the Furman tri-fuel as a whole house generator does? Live in Texas, got caught in the cold last year without power. Want to prevent this year and not spend big money. So this is probably, there's two questions I get asked quite often about these. Number one is there a way to clean up the power on these tri-fuel Furman generators? Because if you guys aren't familiar with generators, the THD, the total harmonic distortion on a generator, is how ugly and jagged the power waves are. And I'm sure I got the terminology a little bit wrong there. So a lot of people ask about that. That's one project that I've been researching quite a bit and I haven't really found a solution to. And Joe, It's a long way around to tell you that I haven't quite found a solution for this yet either. I've gone down the rabbit hole on a lot of threads online. There's been some different ideas. There was one guy, I want to say in England, that had their generator in a storage room in a shared apartment building, and they wanted to set up a like a remote control kind of system. But no, I haven't found something yet. I'm going to look at this, and this is an area over the next 6 months or so that I'm going to start looking for a solution. So community, workshop community members out there, put your heads together. If anybody can come up with an idea to be able to start a generator remote controlly, it would be great. Like, there's the downside to doing that, of course, in that it may turn on when you don't want it to, or it may end up, running more fuel than you want it to. But this is an area I'm going to research. So Joe, if you find something in the meantime, come back and share it with me. But this is a project I want to get going and figure out, because it seems to be something that's important to a lot of people, and a lot of people want to know about it. So I'm really going to look into seeing if we can figure out a way to clean up the power, and a way to, what I would love to be able to do is not just remote control start it from home, but to be able to remote control start it using, say, Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or, say you're at work and you want to be able to get it started up for your missus or someone else in the family. So yeah, so a line tamer, I've been looking at that kind of stuff. For a lot of things, it really doesn't matter. But of course, for your electronics, it's a big deal. I've looked at some uninterruptible power supplies that may help clean that up. There's so much in the generator end of things. Like there's also a soft start that you can install on which a lot of you guys probably know, but I think it's called a soft start that you can install on your central air system, which will help bring down that spike or peak power consumption when your generator kicks in. When your central air kicks in, so that your generator can handle it. That's something else I'm looking at. So many projects I want to work on. But yeah, so this is something, Know Your Joe. You can count on it. Over the next 6 months, I'm going to do a bunch more research. I get more free time in the winter, so this is going to be one of my cool projects. So keep an eye out. We'll find out. We'll come up with some kind of solution. Hopefully it'll be safe, because to me, that's what it is. Announcements, guys. Yeah, we got a ton of good interviews coming up. Next week, we got Skylar Gibler. If you guys know him at all from, and Know Your Joe says, and yeah, if you got more questions or comments, throw them up here too, guys. I'm going to throw out some of these announcements while we're talking, but maybe get a small inverter generator for electronics. I thought about that too. Or maybe I may incorporate my my solar system to run just my electronics off of, because I got a pure sine wave inverter, 1500 watt coming, that I got a killer deal. If you guys ever are looking at some of these electronics, check out the Amazon warehouse deals. I think I saved 20% on this inverter simply because it was an open box return that's fully tested. I did the same thing with my UV lights for my Crack Key Grow system. So check out Amazon warehouse deals. You'll save some money there. Next week, we got Skylar Gibler coming on talking about getting started homesteading. Super excited about that. And then 2 weeks after that, we got Brian from the Lots Project coming on talking about off-grid RV living. That one I'm so excited about. If you guys haven't followed Brian, he was our community member spotlight this month. But him and his wife, Corey, are building an off-grid RV with solar panels, a wood heater, the whole works. They even do they're way more into it than I ever would be. But they even do their laundry by hand, which is kind of cool. So they got coming on. I actually have a vet coming up, and I don't mean like a veteran from the military. I mean an actual MD vet that takes care of pets and livestock. So we're going to have kind of an open forum where you can ask her questions. She's also going to come on and talk about livestock, pets, and preparedness, which I'm super excited about. We're actually booked up for guests until 2022, which sounds like a long ways away, but all that really means is we're, booking into January now. But I got a former military guy coming on who's going to talk about assessing your property for tactical preparedness. That's a mouthful. Say that 10 times fast. But that's just a few of them. We got a few more. I'm going to intersperse some of the Just Tim shows. And possibly in the new year, we may start a second live stream simply because I'd like to get 2 podcasts, 2 live. Anyway, this is all just kind of throwing it out there so you guys can kind of mention it. If there's another day of the week that you really like, I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I do not want to be putting out more than 5 pieces of content a week. So if I do a live stream, it will replace one of my weekly videos for a while. So we may try that. I'd love to get my wife back on more often. It may be like an introduction to preparedness segment, like a half hour, 45-minute live stream that might take the place of the workshop, the weekend workshop. I don't know yet. Just throwing it out there. If you guys have suggestions for things you'd like to see, I'd love to do it because I do have a lot more time in the winter and I'd love to get onto it. I've got 2 more podcast appearances coming up. So you guys, I'd love to see you support me and hop on. If you guys have heard of the Prepper Broadcast Network, they have a live stream every Monday night. They're a pretty big deal. I'm pretty excited about that. They actually reached out to me and I'm going to be on their Monday night live stream, October 25th. So if you guys can come by and chat in the live chat there, that would be great. Also going to be on the Small Scale Life podcast coming up real soon as well. I think that'll put me at, I'm kind of excited about this. I set a goal of making 6 podcast appearances in 2021, and that will be number 5 and 6. So guys, set big, audacious, hairy goals and go after them. So next year, 2022, I am looking to make 12 appearances on podcasts and I think some live teaching courses as well. If you guys, a lot of this is way out there right now, but next April, I'm going to be in Tennessee for as long as everything works out and the borders aren't closed again and blah, 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 should be at the Living Free in Tennessee workshop. And if the days line up properly, the wife and I are also going to make it like a 10-day trip and we're going to go to Texas and possibly go to the Float Fest as well. If you guys don't know what Float is, check up with me later, but it's a social media platform that I absolutely love. Incredible couple that runs it. And this will be the 2nd annual Float Fest. And I'd love to make some time and meet up with you guys too. I think it would be great. So that's really all I have for this week. We've going to be a great, Joseph, it's going to be a great year. I set a goal. Oh, no, you're Joe. You really had to go there, didn't you, buddy? No. So, yes, completely off topic. This is a great question. Is there government gun control in Canada? Joseph can answer that question because I've spent quite a bit of time bitching to him on that. But yeah, I can touch on it a little bit. The short answer and the long answer is yes. You have to have a license. So if you want to have a long gun, you have to have what's called a non-restricted license. Those are the least restricted guns in Canada. Those would be shotguns, rifles, 22s, all that kind of hunting guns, the type of stuff that isn't black and scary for the most part, anyway. So yeah, first part is non-restricted guns. You still have to go and take a 1-day course, wait 6 weeks, get your license. Have to renew it every 5 years. But you can basically go to a gun show, a gun shop, and buy most long guns. Any rifle is pinned at 5 rounds here in Canada, no matter what. Shotguns are a little bit different. I don't know the full ends of it. I have one here that I don't want to misspeak, but I think it can hold 8 or 9. I'm not sure, but that came from the factory that way, so it's totally legal. So long guns are the easy thing in Canada. Yes, you can have basically as many long guns as you want, as long as you have a license, and then you can go and buy them as you want to. Now, restricted, this is where you guys will probably groan and roll your eyes and think, oh, poor Tim. Restricted license in Canada is a second license. It's another day course, another 6-week wait. It is being subjected to a ton of background checks, and that is basically the only way in Canada you can own a handgun. Now, what can I do with a handgun in Canada? Not a whole hell of a lot. The limit to rounds in a handgun in Canada are 10. I have to, when it's sitting in my gun cabinet, it needs to be locked in a gun cabinet with a trigger lock on it. When can I use that handgun? Never, unless I'm going to the gun range. That's it. When I travel to the gun range, it needs to be in a locked container with a trigger lock on it. I can go to the gun range. I can have target practice there. I then relock it, bring it home, put it back in its gun cabinet, and that is where it stays. I can't shoot it on private property. I can't use it for self-defense. I can take it out to clean it, but that is the extent. And very few people have those licenses in Canada because it is a lot of work. We have never had, oh man, see, you had to get me up on the high horse here. And then we also have prohibited guns, which that list grows by the day, basically. And that is guns that are not legal under any circumstances. And until recently, the AR-15 was just a restricted, which is like a fancy, which would fall under my handgun licensing as well. Restricted means, scary looking rifles and whatever. Anyway, so we've never had a fatal shooting with an AR-15 in Canada in our history. 0. But they were banned last year. That's all I'm going to say for about that for now, because it gets me mad, and you guys probably know, but I can't do anything about it. Preparedness is about living within the constraints. That's a permaculture principle, is basically finding solutions that will work within your restraints or constraints, I guess is the proper word. So wonder if your home defense guest has alternative methods. Oh, yes, that's a great idea. And you know what? I bet we can talk about that. And yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll do an entire episode on this kind of thing down the road, but there's so much that can be done, baseball bat anyway. But yeah, bear spray is not legal to have unless you're going in the woods and that kind of stuff. But so yeah, it's all about living within. And I spent a lot of years getting really mad about a lot of things that were outside of my control. So I decided that my wife knows that I can spend a lot of time bitching and moaning about the government and a whole bunch of other things. So I've really just got to the point where I've moved on from all the things I can't do. And I really try to focus on all the things I can do, the independence I can find in my life, and the happiness and financial freedom that we can find. Because yeah, it really sucks, but I still have a nice little gun collection that I enjoy. And, Ted says, what you can't use your handgun for is self-defense. What are you supposed to do? Run and get the rifle? Yep, that's it, basically. And even then, we do have the right to reasonable self-defense in Canada. However, if you were to ever shoot somebody, you're going to court and you're going to have to fight it. I'm part of a local gun club, so I have insurance that'll cover me on that kind of stuff, but it is what it is. We're treated differently up here. We don't have any stand your ground laws, So anyway, yeah, it is what it is, guys. I could go for hours on this, and maybe if you guys ever come over on Odyssey, maybe we'll have a special live stream just for Odyssey and Float where we can talk about guns all night long. And I do it on here too, but yeah, maybe we'll do that down the road because there's so much I could tell you guys about. Things are just different up here, and it is what it is. But you learn to live and work within the system. At least I'm not Australia, at least for now, right? But yeah, that is, like I said, we've got a ton of good guests coming up. I got a few more that I haven't really mentioned completely, but I'm really excited about it. What is Odyssey? So right now, you're watching this on YouTube. I use a program called StreamYard, and it simulcasts or simulstreams this live stream onto 3 different platforms. YouTube, of course, is my biggest platform, my biggest audience, but I also stream to Float, which is a Twitter, Facebook kind of free speech platform that I love. I love to support them. So it's also, you can watch it over there. And Odyssey, which is the closest thing to Ted says, hell, here in Florida, I can shoot you just for looking at me threateningly. I know, Ted, I know. So Odyssey is a open source free speech YouTube platform. It's If I hadn't looked, I could have told you right off. If you look in any of the descriptions of any of my videos, you'll see all of my social media links there. Odyssey is one of the big ones. They actually pay me in cryptocurrency they pull my videos off of YouTube. They have permission. They do this for any creator with 300 subscribers or more if you sign up for it. So all of my content is also over on Odyssey, and they're also going to start running ads soon, which is really cool, which means us creators can find another outlet to make a little extra money. But I love Odyssey. They're a decentralized platform that runs on the blockchain, if you're familiar with that kind of thing. It's basically uncensorable to an extent. You know, they won't allow something that's illegal, but they're also not going to stop you from saying lots of things that other platforms do. Really cool, though. I like Odyssey. Check it out. I'll probably do an entire video on them down the road just so you can learn a little more. I've got 500 subscribers, or just about 500 on Odyssey as well. And most of the people who are over there, that's the only place they're on now. It's a great platform. I've been on there for about a year and a half, and you know, they're a really good platform for supporting creators, and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's okay. You know what's cool, Joseph? What I love about Odyssey is I cannot think about it for 2 months and nothing changes. It's just there. You know, their crypto right now isn't worth a lot, but mine's just there making me a little bit of crypto. And if their crypto ever goes up, there'll be a lot more money to be made. But you know what's really cool, Joseph? If you never, ever even check on your videos, everything you've ever made is automatically backed up over there, except videos that go over an hour like this one, and I have to manually upload it. But other than that, anything you create that's an hour or less, they automatically pull it over there. Oh, yes, Joe. Man, thank you for all. I love that. Man, I could talk all night. But so I have I don't know if I can find it for you right now. But if you want to check out, if you go on and check out my playlists, check out the Weekend Workshop playlist. And back about maybe 8 months ago, I did a video called A Beginner's Guide to Crypto. Basically, I shared my journey just getting into it. And honestly, it's really Bitcoin and everything else. If you're just getting started, just figure out a way to do business with somebody or to take payment in crypto and do it with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the industry standard. Bitcoin is the gold of crypto. You know, there's no guarantees with anything. I have a bit of Bitcoin. I've been buying a little bit over time just to get comfortable with it. But what I like about crypto is it's another way to interact with other people and to send payments to other people. There's a ton of technology out there, but you know, lots of people will say, you know, this is the be all, the end all, but just getting comfortable with crypto is a neat way of doing it. I use a wallet called Jax wallet. It's a JAXX. It's an app on my iPhone. It allows me to store a few different types of currency in there. But if you guys want me to do a show on crypto, getting started in crypto, I can definitely do that down the road. I'm no expert, but I've learned a lot. It seems really, what's the word for it? It seems really overwhelming when you get started. Like my wife knew nothing about it, and then she got excited. She liked watching the market go up and down, and she liked checking the Jax Liberty wallet on her phone. And so I set her up with it, and it's really not that difficult. And it's another store of wealth. Diversity is really important. So, you know, having cash on hand is great. But if you have cash in the bank and you can't access it, well, there's that. You know, having silver and gold on hand. I like silver myself, but having precious metals on hand, having copper jacketed lead is another precious metal you should have on hand, but also having some money in crypto. One really cool thing about crypto, and I won't go into the whole thing, but say for instance, you just had to bug out and go to a completely different country and you've got nothing with you. You don't have your phone. You've lost everything, but you know your seed phrase to your crypto wallet. And it's 16 words, right? So if you have those 16 words memorized up here or written on a piece of paper, when you land in, I don't know, South Korea, I don't know why I picked that, but say for whatever reason you decided you're going to bug out to South Korea. You have no cash with you, no nothing. You get over there, you buy yourself a cheap Android phone, you install your crypto wallet on it, and if you have that 16 word backup security phrase memorized, you put those 16 words in there, you have access to your money like that. I don't know any other technology that allows you to do that. So, Yeah, you know what? Maybe I will. It'll force me to learn a little bit more, but yeah, down the road, maybe in the new year, I'll do one. I know it's a little off from some of the stuff, but it's a huge preparedness idea, concept that's really good to know about. And yeah, it and yeah, Ted, it is like it seems intimidating, and it kind of was to me at first. And then my wife and I were on vacation in Edmonton, which is 3 hours away, and I saw a Bitcoin bank machine, and I thought, how in the hell does that work? So I went up and I read about it, and it says you put cash in and you get Bitcoin. So I learned how to install the wallet on my phone. I put $100 in the machine, and I got $100 worth of Bitcoin on my phone, and it was not difficult. And in Canada, it's even easier because there's ways to buy it directly from your bank account using an email transfer. Super simple. Anyway, but it's not something that I'm saying to do. It's not something that I'm saying not to do, but it is definitely something to learn about. There's money to be made, but there's also money to be lost. Don't put any money in there that you wouldn't spend on a good meal or, a lottery ticket or anything else. It's just another way to maybe diversify your savings and have a type of income that maybe is just, I don't even want to say not known about, because anything you buy is going to be tracked, but it's just one more way to have diversity and security in your finances. That's what I like. We don't have a ton of money. My wife and I don't have a ton of money in crypto, but we've dabbled with it for the last year and a half, and I really enjoy it. It's been a learning experience. And if nothing else, the old dog, new tricks thing, I force myself to learn something new all the time. And crypto was just one of those things that I was like, it's time to learn about. So yeah, Joe, I will, in the new year, I'll do a show on crypto. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I will. I would love to teach you what I know, and we can, we'll get people in, let them ask questions, and I'll answer them the best of my knowledge, because there's a lot I don't know, and there's a little bit that I've learned, and I'll do my best to make it simple and show everybody, and that'll be it. Yeah, hopefully it'll work for you guys. All right, guys. Wow, that is a new record. We went an hour and 41 minutes, but I appreciate it. At least my voice is working again. I'm super happy about that. For a couple of weeks, it was getting really bad. What about an episode? Oh, okay. Oh, I like that. I can't take here. I don't want to get my Cardano ADA is a good crypto is low right now. So I'm going to bring my phone out and I'm going to just take a screenshot, because I don't know how to take a screenshot of my desktop. So anyway, I don't want to forget about these. I love this. So Know Your Joe says, what about an episode covering techniques and strategies for bugging in? You made my day, Joe. That is an awesome topic. And especially, so I've got all these great interviews lined up for the next few weeks. So I almost have to do a second live stream just so I can talk about the stuff that I want to talk about as well. So we'll see. We'll go into that. I love doing these live streams. You might think, well, one thing I like about doing them is, in some ways, they're less work than putting together a video for the week. Like, I can sit down, I about an hour, I take about an hour and I put together my notes for the show. And then it's me sitting down and chatting with you guys, which I love to do. And in some ways that's easier than writing a script for a video or notes for a video, filming a video, editing a video, uploading a video, making a thumbnail, and to be honest, these live streams do as well or better than my average videos, at least up front in the first week. My review videos do really good long term, and that's what really has built both my channel and my income in content creation in these first 2 years. So I'll always do reviews, but these live streams I love because they build community, and I get to know Joe, for instance, and John and Ted and Joseph and everybody else. Like, I love having you guys in here, so it's great. And sorry about that, guys. Cardano, that's one I have to look into. Like, right now, the ones that I have dabbled in and had fun with are Bitcoin, Litecoin, Pirate Coin, USD Tether. Oh, what else? Oh, and Library Coin, which is Odyssey's official currency. Those are the ones I've played with, ones I maybe have a little bit of, not a whole lot in some of them, and Float is coming out with their own token. Token can be an interchangeable word with a cryptocurrency, could be something anyway, but I'm really excited about being able to earn. I've been on float since last December. It's been a full year. I started with them when their system was horrible. I love them to death, but there was days you could barely even log on. So yeah, it is what it is. But now they're an incredibly awesome growing platform. I love Float. I try to brag them up all the time. Check them out. It's flote.app. But they're going to start rewarding creators over there, which I love. So Joe, Know Your Joe says, by the way, you have great content. Found your channel looking up info on the Furman Tri-Fuel. The live stream are great. Joe, that means a lot to me. It's funny. But when you start creating content, when you're brand new, you're just like, you're going to go somewhere where things are going to, you're going to get there eventually. But when things really start taking off and your channel really starts growing and you really start having even just a little bit of an impact, it's humbling. So anyway, thanks, man. Ken says, West Virginia, the patron state of shooting stuff. Try saying that 5 times fast as well. And Joe says, John Grohl, thanks for the info. Yeah, and look into that. I know I've heard a few different people talking about it now. And if I had more time to listen to more podcasts, I would. I probably listen to 3 or 4 a day as it is. And there's a ton of good information out there. So if you guys ever have any recommendations for other podcasts that you listen to, especially in the preparedness field, I would love it. Also, if you have any recommendations for other podcasts that you might think are looking for guests, and big, small, in between, doesn't matter. I love getting out there and meeting new people. That's how our community grows. And if you guys have any recommendations for people that should be on the Sunday night live stream and possibly another night, let me know as well. And we may even need to change the name Talking Tools. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to do a big revamp the 1st of January this winter. I'm going to, probably have a new intro and a bunch of, so as of right now, there's a live stream every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. So as of right now, that's the only time weekly. Starting in the new year, I'm pretty sure we'll end up having a second one every week. I love doing them and I have the time to do them. So next Sunday, every Sunday, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Eastern. That's when we have them. All right, guys, I think that we'll call her quits here. I do believe that I have a date with my wife in the hot tub. We're going to go out and enjoy the cold weather and sit in the hot tub for half an hour before we call her quits for the evening, I believe. But guys, I know I say it all the time, and I know you guys could spend your time anywhere. Oh, my day job is I run my own business. I am a handyman. I have been full-time doing that. It'll be 4 years in May since I told the man that he could kiss my ass and I went out on my own. It'll be 5 years since I started it part-time, but I love it. I have a ton of flexibility in my schedule and almost get more nervous uploading as your audience grows. I don't know why, but that's my experience. Ain't that the truth, Joseph? But yeah. So Joe, I'm a handyman. I'm a full-time handyman. I pick and choose what I like to do, and there's quite a bit of flexibility in there, so I enjoy it. But yes, Joseph, thank you guys. We're going to call her quits. Simply, it's been an hour and 47 minutes. So thanks, guys. And as always, you know what it is. Stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week. Good morning, guys. Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Saturday morning, which means it's time for another edition of the weekend workshop. And this week's video was inspired by a little thing that happened to us a couple of Sundays ago. We were sitting around in the house and our carbon monoxide detector went off. I thought, well, that's strange. It seemed anyway. So I did probably not the wisest thing. I moved it to another plug, reset it, let it sit there, and about an hour later, it went off again. So I thought I better call the gas company. So they said, well, Is anybody sick? Anybody showing any symptoms of sickness or anything? No, our door's been open, our windows are open, so I think it might be defective. And they said, sure, but we're going to send out someone just in case. And that got me thinking. You always hear these stories, us being prepared. You always hear these stories about people who have had bad times with their generators. Backup power can create a lot of carbon monoxide. And this isn't just about that, but I want to talk to you today about the importance of not having a disaster when you're running your backup power through your generator. So hang in there. All right, guys, real quick before we dive in, if you're new, you want to know who I am, toolmantim.co. Run by there, you'll find the monthly newsletter, weekly podcast, social media links, and the shop where I got a ton of different Amazon links to stuff that I've used in my handyman business that's made me money or saved me money. A lot of different categories. We got hand tools, painting tools, landscaping tools, DeWalt cordless gear, and of course my favorite, the preparedness items. Anything you pick up or anything you buy through Amazon after clicking one of those links for the next 48 hours helps support the content I create, and of course I'm grateful for that, so thanks guys. So I got thinking, part of this, it turned out that my CO monitor was hit the end of its life, and its siren or buzzer on that one was identical to a positive amount of gas, or negative depending on how you want to put at it. So there was no way to tell. It didn't say on it this is what it means or whatever, but it got me thinking. Part of being a prepper, part of being prepared is about eliminating as many risks as you can, trying to mitigate anything bad that can happen to you. And yet we're so willing to turn around and take risks, sometimes to our own detriment or our own safety, that we don't always think about, hey, maybe there is a way I can eliminate some of these risks. When I was in the oil patch, we had the 5 steps of risk management. And I'd love to say I have them memorized, but I don't. But I'm going to read them to you. And they're eliminate, substitute, engineer, administrate, and PPE. And you might think, oh, okay, whatever. So I love this. It worked great for us. But number one, you look at any risk, and this is, I'm going to go through the risks of running a generator, running backup power, that kind of stuff. But early on, eliminate, of course. If you look at something, you say, man, there is a serious danger there. That's too dangerous. I can't handle it. Get rid of it altogether. Find a complete, just get rid of it. If you don't need it, don't have it. Substitute. Maybe there's a safer option. Maybe instead of, spraying your lawn with poison pesticides, you can use a homemade remedy that's made of natural products, that kind of stuff. So eliminate, get rid of it, substitute, find a better option for it. Number 3, engineer. So say you got a hole in the ground. You can't eliminate that hole, but what you can do is engineer a fence around it. So that makes it more difficult for some dummy to fall into the hole because you engineered a solution for it. Number 4, administrate. This one's stupid, but it's not stupid, and it works at home as well. And administrate is about rules. So you're literally, if you can't do anything else to solve a safety problem, you can make rules that say, don't stick your finger in a light socket. And that goes simply of, say you're maybe backfeeding your house, and you can put a sign on your panel that says, do not turn on this breaker. Only dad can turn on this breaker. Or you can put a lock on it, or whatever it happens to be. But that could be a household administration that could save you some problems or someone else some real problems. And then PPE. And if you guys haven't worked, some of you will probably know what that means, some of you won't, but personal protective equipment. So if you do need to stick your finger in the light socket, please wear gloves. Anyway, yeah. So if there's a serious risk of fire or burns or things like that, something that would be good would be to wear fireproof gloves, or at least gloves that aren't going to catch fire the instant you touch something. So I hope that helps. That's kind of the platform that we used when I worked in the oil patch to deal with, because stuff was literally life and death. Like we had H2S gas that come out of some wellheads that if you breathed it in for like 5 seconds, you could literally drop dead if it was concentrated enough. So there was a lot of different controls in place to keep us safe. And this is the same thing about eliminating risks as preparedness. Being prepared, it's about eliminating risks that can happen to us, but it should also be about eliminating risks that we can create for ourselves. So let's look at the main risks that we can have while running backup power through a generator. And you guys all know the stories. Every time there's a protracted power outage somewhere, you see the local news,
Austin man left homeless because he ran his generator in the middle of the living room with flammable materials on top of it. Or Austin family sent to hospital, or Calgary family sent to hospital because they had their generator running in their porch and the carbon monoxide nearly killed them. That kind of stuff. And I'm not here to scare you, but I'm here to talk openly about the dangers of backup power, because I think it's prudent to do, and how we can maybe eliminate or deal with some of those risks to be prepared and help our family be safer. I actually did quite a bit of research for this video, and carbon monoxide seems to be the biggest danger of generators. Turns out that most gas-powered generators create more than 100 times carbon monoxide than your standard home vehicle. And over 50% of carbon monoxide poisonings that for people who get admitted to the hospital are due to improper use of portable generators. So that should give us some pause. We want to be prepared. We want to be in a place to look after our family. We want to be able to have power when there is no power. But the last thing we want to do is create a new problem with our solution. And, we don't want to end up having carbon monoxide coming into our home. So, the first thing definitely is to make sure you keep it away from windows and doors, especially open ones. I watched some videos from the CDC on this, and the recommendation for 20 feet, so they basically say you should keep a generator at least 20 feet from any opening on your home, because they did studies in 15 feet, especially, now this is going to be the funny thing, especially on a dead calm day, 15 feet, that stuff could still waft into your house. Most firefighters still say 15 feet's enough, but keeping it away from the house, number one, is eliminating the hazard. So why put it against the house if you don't need to? So if you can eliminate it, move it away from your house, get a little longer extension cord, whatever it happens to be. But that's a way to eliminate it. A way to administrate or engineer would be to have carbon monoxide detectors in your house. Maybe even have a portable one to be able to test. But whatever it is, make sure you have carbon monoxide detectors that will be battery operated, because you may or may not, say your generator runs out of fuel. Well, all of a sudden, you could be SOL because you don't have any plugged in carbon monoxide detectors. So make sure you have at least one battery one, and I would recommend one on every floor and near where you sleep. Here's another way you could eliminate or mitigate some of the option or some of the hazards. Maybe buy a dual fuel or a tri-fuel generator, because propane uses, I want to make sure, 60% or creates 60% less carbon monoxide than gasoline, which is awesome. I couldn't find exact numbers on natural gas, but it seems like it's somewhere between gasoline and propane. So if you can use a cleaner burning fuel, you're going to get less carbon monoxide, which is definitely a bonus. So there's another way to at least eliminate or cut back on the risk to you and your family. Okay, so number two, the first biggest risk, of course, is carbon monoxide poisoning, something we don't ever want to have to deal with. And number two is fire hazards. So this is the second one. You always hear those stories. And I actually knew a couple of families in my hometown down on the islands, because they were more prone to power outages down there, that actually lost their homes to generators. And quite often it would end up being, the weather's shitty, I don't want to go outside, or I don't have long enough extension cords, or I don't. So they end up running it in, a covered carport, which is bad enough, or the one that I remember, they had it running in their front porch. Why would you ever do that? You've got an enclosed engine that's creating tons of heat, possibly sparks, in an area that can be combustible and catch on fire just like that. So be safe. Again, at least keep it 15 to 20 feet away from your home. I've actually looked into, this was something I came up with as I was watching this video. There's some grilling pads and things you can buy. They're basically fireproof blankets. I'm going to pick one of those up to set on my generator, because even though the deck that it sits on isn't attached to the house, it's still flammable, and I want to make sure that I can mitigate the best that I can. That'll be a way to engineer around that issue a little bit. Now, a few other things. Keep an eye on your oil level, because generators aren't made to the tightest tolerances. They tend to leak or burn a lot of oil when they're running. So the lower your oil gets, the hotter your engine gets. So keep an eye on that. You need to, if you're running it for long extended periods of time, you've got to shut it down to do your oil changes anyway. But keep an eye on that, because if it gets too low, you're going to end up having a really bad day. Also, maybe look at buying a generator that has a low oil shutoff in it. It can be a pain in the ass if your oil's a little low and your generator won't start, but it could save your bacon just in case you end up having a situation where you didn't realize it was burning oil, it didn't shut off, it overheated. The rest is, Now another one, and this is one that I know a lot of people really, really struggle with, because you want to keep your generator running, but don't ever fuel it up when it's hot. And it sucks because if it's a cold day out and you got to turn your generator off for 15-20 minutes to let it cool down enough. Now if it's shitty weather outside, it's going to cool your generator down quicker, but do not dump regular gasoline into a hot generator. If you spill even a little bit, you can have flash ups, flare ups, you can catch a generator on fire, you can burn yourself seriously. Never a good thing. Wear eye protection, wear gloves when you're doing that kind of stuff too. And here's a way, can we eliminate that hazard? How about plumbing your generator directly into natural gas? That's an option. Then you can let it run all the time and you never have to worry about refueling a hot generator. Or propane as well. Again, no issues there. You run out of propane, you disconnect, hook up another barrel of propane. Always ways to look at this. I love putting together these list videos like this because people sometimes watch it and they're like, oh, I know all that. But you know what? If I give a top 10 list, there's a good chance one item on there you haven't learned before. And that's why I watch these videos all the time, because you know what? I might see 10 items for generator preparedness, and I might know 9 of them already, but if I think I know everything, I know nothing. So it's worth taking the time, watching these, and pulling away. Sometimes I might have already heard all 10 of those items, but one of those little tips or hints gets my brain running, and all of a sudden it makes a connection. I think, hey, I can do this or that or the next thing. So I get excited about the simplest, stupidest little things, but I really wanted to talk about generator safety. Another concern with fire is don't use frayed, broken, worn out, or especially undersized extension cords. Extension cords, you guys know, you can get away with an undersized extension cord for a little while sometimes if you're using, say, a hedge trimmer on a 16 gauge or whatever. It might heat up a little bit, but you're not going to be out there for 10 days using it. But if you're running an undersized extension cord to power a bunch of heavy-duty equipment in your home, there's a good chance that could melt, short, catch fire, cause a whole bunch. So invest in good quality heavy-duty extension cords that are thick enough or thicker than the amperage you need to run through it. Because if you're going to run a 1500 watt space heater, you're going to need a really good extension cord. And some of them, they don't even recommend doing it. But it's important because, spend a little bit of money up front. Make sure you're set up, because the last thing you want to do is get ready to run your generator and the only thing you have is an 18 gauge extension cord that you got at Walmart last year to run your Christmas lights on. And now all of a sudden you need to run 2 space heaters from it. So spend some time, buy a few good extension cords, or just buy one really heavy one and use that for the drop dead essentials and rotate in and out. But whatever you do, have a couple of good extension cords. That could save you from a house fire as well. And also burns. I talked about them a little bit before, but something I'm going to do right away, and it should be pretty obvious, but I'm going to let my generator run for a bit, and then I'm going to take my temperature gun and I'm going to run around the outside so that I mentally know where the really hot spots are. Because my worker a couple of years ago with a push mower, something you don't always think about, wasn't wearing gloves. It was before we had a ramp on my trailer, so we used to have to pick up the push mowers between each mowing and then push them onto the trailer. And he set it up, went to push it, had been mowing all day. You know that little muffler right there, red hot muffler, put his hand right there, put a perfect, who knows, probably a 2nd degree circle burn right into his hand. He was out of commission for a few days and he was in pain. And it's so stupid and so simple. If he'd have been wearing gloves, it wouldn't have happened. If he'd have been cognizant of knowing where that hazard was, it wouldn't have happened. So sometimes we just do dumb ass things that can get us in trouble. So just pay attention. Know where the hot spots are in your generator. Don't put your hands where you wouldn't put your tongue. You know what I thought. You know what you thought I was going to say, didn't you? But yes, be cognizant of the hot spots. Wear gloves. Wear eye protection if you have to. Don't fuel up a hot generator. Don't use undersized extension cords. And remember, behind every don't, there's a do. Do wear gloves. Do get a heavy-duty extension cord. Do wait for your generator to cool down before you fuel up. Number 3 And this one is the least rare, or the most rare. It's not one you hear on the news nearly as often, but shocks and electrocution are something that can be a real issue as well. And this really got me thinking about backfeeding a generator. You guys watch my video called backfeed or not backfeed. There's a lot of safety issues there. I don't recommend it. I just shared my knowledge that I've picked up over the years learning about it. But you need to make sure you follow the proper procedures. Make sure your main breaker is off first. If at all possible, I made a backfeed cable and I put 2 male ends on it. It would have been so simple if I'd have just thought for an extra minute to put a male outlet on the outside of the house and use a female end extension cord. That would have eliminated one more hazard. That would have been smart, Tim. But I wasn't thinking, because every one I've ever made before was 2 male ends. Now, I have an administrative process that makes my system perfectly safe as long as I follow it. But the problem is if somebody forgets, or if I forget something, I could have a bad day. So you need to be careful. Don't ever plug in or unplug things to a generator when it's running. You should have everything plugged in ahead of time with breakers turned off. Then turn your breakers on once your generator's up and running at full steam. Know the process. Make sure you know what it is you need to do to stay safe around electricity. Before you go to even unhook any cords, make sure your generator's turned off. And here's one final tip that may save you some headaches and hassles. I've seen this again from one of those man has a fire on his generator local news stories, and it was kind of sad, but he said, you know, I never checked for safety recalls on my generator. And why wouldn't you? It's free upgrades to your, if there's a safety recall on your car, we always go in and get it done because it's free, doesn't cost you anything. It's an upgrade, it's looking after your family, but generators have those too. And sometimes there's a short or something in them that causes electrical fires or electrocution or shocks. Go on your manufacturer's website once in a while, check out if there are any safety recalls. And if they are, what do? Contact the company and find out what it is you need to upgrade, because this guy had one and it was actually in, I think it was in the spark arrestor, or anyway, his entire, maybe it was the air filter, I can't remember. Anyway, the whole thing caught fire, and it was due to a known issue that could have been fixed with a simple safety recall. But of course, first off, he'd bought the generator during a power outage, needed it right away, had to put it into service today. So, again, how do you eliminate that? Well, buy something before you need it. Check on all the known issues at that time. Maybe if there's too many issues, don't even buy that one. But if you've already bought it, keep an eye out. Call the company. Get that dealt with today, as opposed to waiting like I do sometimes, So, guys, if you can't tell, I love talking about generators and backup power. I hope this wasn't too doom and gloom. I wanted it to be as positive as I could about eliminating risks and keeping our family safe. If you guys can think of other risks that maybe I forgot about, or other safety measures or eliminations altogether that a person could make, share them. Let me know, because I'd love to put together another video just like this. And if you're new here and you want to see more generator videos, preparedness videos, tool review videos, hit that subscribe button, stick around, introduce yourself to the community in the comments below. And guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop, where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Monday morning, which means it's time for another edition of the Money Making Minute. And this week I got a top 5 list for you. I love the Gorilla brand of products. And I got thinking, there's a lot of products I've used over the years in my business, and I thought I would share with you the 5 that I like the most. So hang in there. We're going to hit it up with a top 5 Gorilla products video. Alright guys, real quick, if you're new here and you don't know who I am, want to know more about who I am, run by toolmantim.co. That's toolmantim.co. And you can find my monthly newsletter, my weekly podcast, my social links, and of course the shop, where we have well over 100 Amazon products, stuff that has made me money or saved me money in my handyman business, stuff that meets the Toolman Tim seal of approval. Ton of different categories. We got hand tools, we got painting tools, we have DeWalt cordless, landscaping gear, and of course, my favorite products, the preparedness items. So run by there, check it out. If you buy anything from one of those links on Amazon in the next 48 hours, it supports the channel and the content I create. So thank you guys. All right, so I can't even remember who I was talking to here a little while ago, but I was talking about how much I love the Gorilla products and how I've used a ton of them in my handyman business and long before I even started my handyman business. And I thought, you know what? I've used a few, so I'll make a top 3 Gorilla products video. And then I realized, well, honestly, there's about 5 that I've used that I really like over the years, and I want to share them with you. And I started going around to pick up some of them in the house, and I like them so much that most of them I'd used. So I figured, you know what, the easiest way for me to do it is to just talk about it, and I'll put some pictures up as we go along. Because I got an old ratty bottle of Gorilla Glue downstairs, I got a half-used roll of Gorilla Stick and Seal or Steel and Stick or whatever, and I thought, you know what, we'll just talk about it, and I'll put some nice, brand new pictures up there so you can see the exact products. So the first Gorilla product, Gorilla branded product that I love is the original. None better, often imitated, never duplicated, the original Gorilla Glue. When that stuff first came out, I was a little gun shy because it was a little expensive. It used to come in those 18-ounce tubes. That's what I buy it in now because it lasts a long time. I was working at the hardware store and it came out, and I can't remember the exact price of it at the time, but it seemed rather expensive. And we even they were putting such a push on it that we had a salesman who would come by every month to make sure we had our Gorilla Glue. That was the only product they carried at the time, and to tell us all about it. Well, one night we had a customer come in and they said, listen, I got an old beater of a car. It has a nice side mirror on it and it got knocked off. There's nothing holding it there but adhesive. He said, what do you recommend? So we called the Gorilla Glue guy and he's like, no problem at all. He said, as long as you can figure out a way to keep pressure on that overnight, that thing will glue it. He said, it'll glue your hand to your head if you let it. It's yellow. It turns kind of yellow. It expands a bit. It's not perfect. But man, if you want something that absolutely holds when you glue something there, go with the original Gorilla Glue. I've used that more than any of the other products on this list. Number 2 is the 18-ounce tubes of the Gorilla Wood Glue. You know, I used to do a ton of woodworking. I've kind of gotten out of it. I don't know. I actually sold off a lot of my woodworking gear over the last couple of years just because I don't have the room for it. I don't have the passion or the patience. I'm into a lot of different things, in case you didn't notice. And I was always a LePage cabinetry strength wood glue kind of guy. And again, we'd just gotten in the wood glue at the home hardware where I worked, the new Gorilla Wood Glue, and I needed more wood glue, and we were out of the LePage's cabinet maker's glue. So I thought, well, let's give it a shot. It really wasn't that much more expensive. And to be honest, it was at least as good, if not better. I fell in love with it. It worked great for me. It had really good holding power. And it came in a really big container, which I liked. Now, you guys, I know carpenters and woodworkers are all about the glue that they love. But I ended up switching after just trying it for a lark, a laugh, whatever, just because I absolutely had to. And the holding power was as good or better than the cabinet maker's quality I'd used before. So like I said, if you're looking for a good woodworking glue, give the Gorilla Woodworking Glue a shot. It worked for me. Number 3, and this is one you guys seen me review earlier this summer, and it is the Gorilla Patch and Seal Tape. That stuff is sticky. You guys know we had a pool up out here and an inflatable hot tub. I had an air leak in the inflatable hot tub and I had an undiagnosed water leak in the floor of my above ground pool. I didn't know what to do. I had to come up with something that would patch underwater because I sure as shit was not going to drain that entire pool simply to find a leak. So we eventually found the leak. You peel that stuff off, you go underwater, you stick it down there. It didn't feel like it stuck real good. I give it a good roll with a flooring roller, and it worked. It absolutely sealed up underwater. If you can find a tape that you peel off, you can't rip it with your teeth. You'd have to cut it with scissors. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. It feels like a rubber tarp, and the glue on that stuff, well, if you accidentally touch the two sides together, you're done. Throw it out, start over. And it's about $1 a foot, so it's not cheap. But if you have it in the sun, oh, man, that stuff sticks like there's no tomorrow. I used it on the side of my inflatable hot tub where I had a small pinhole air leak. It worked great. If you're looking for something that absolutely sticks, that Gorilla Patch and Seal tape works really well. It comes in white, it comes in black, and they say you can even patch underwater eaves troughs, gutters that are full of water that are leaking. You can use it for that too. I've yet to try it, but it worked underwater for my pool, so I was happy. Now this one might catch you off guard, but it's the Gorilla packing tape. So I got to tell you a story. We send a lot of things through the mail. And every time we go to package something up, this is how it goes. My wife says, honey, where's the packing tape? I don't know. Haven't seen it. Okay, well, can you take this box to the post office, and when you get there, can you buy a roll of packing tape, tape it up, tape the label on it, ship it off? Sure. Well, you know, if you go to Walmart or the dollar store, you can get rolls of packing tape like 6 for $10. You go to the post office, it's $6 or $10 for a single roll. They get you every time because they know they got you over a barrel. That being said, I do like packing tape. I like keeping it on hand. Last Christmas, we were at Canadian Tire. You guys, for my Americans, I'm sorry. It's a big box store that sells automotive, hunting, everything. It's a really cool store. Anyway, we're up at the cash register, and you know how they have those impulse items for kids? Well, they also have impulse items for dads there. And one of them was a 2-pack of Gorilla packing tape with a really cool little dispenser. I picked that up, and you'd think, well, Tim, how can you be excited about packing tape? Well, I got to tell you, any packing tape that I pick up, even the stuff that's $6 a roll at the Canada Post there, is just not very sticky. And if it is sticky, it doesn't stick to cardboard. There's something about that fibrousness of cardboard that packing tape doesn't always want to stick to. Well, this shit stuck to absolutely everything. And it was about 4 times as thick, so you never had to worry about it peeling apart or being too flimsy. It stayed where it was. It was just a joy to work with. And this chintzy little plastic dispenser that came with it was awesome. It's not much bigger than the roll of tape. It has teeth on it. You stick it here, pull it out, pull it down, and snap it off. It was awesome. So, you know, I know some of these things that I talk about, you're like, really? Packing tape? But yes, give the Gorilla packing tape with the little orange dispenser. You'll see the pictures up here of the stuff I've used. Give it a shot. It's a little more money, but man, you get a lot in a package, and it did what it was supposed to do. It stuck to cardboard, and the dispenser just worked. Little plastic thing, but I was impressed. Number 5, there's 5, not 4, 5, Tim. Number 5 is the clear Gorilla super glue. When I was a kid, you remember the commercials where the guy would super glue his helmet to the roof and get stuck up there? Well, crazy glue was all the rage. Everybody said, get crazy glue, it'll work for this, it'll work for that. Well, you know what? I always found crazy glue didn't work that great. So when we moved out here, we originally kept a property out east, and all of my wife's Precious Moments figures were supposed to stay out there. But somehow they got in a box, they got thrown in the U-Haul, and by the time they got out here, they were all decimated. Every one of them had a broken arm, a broken leg. It looked like a minefield had gone off at a little kid's school. Like, it was awful. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? So I start doing some research on the internet, and I think, well, crazy glue is okay, but I just haven't had really good luck. I love Gorilla Glue, but the problem with Gorilla Glue, brown and it expands. So I got looking. Sure enough, by this point, Gorilla had some super glue, clear super glue, and I used it for all of her Precious Moments figures, and every one of them held and are still holding. I really like it. It's also become my go-to most times. I've got a coffee mug. I actually stopped using it a couple of years ago because I've broke it so many times. But my daughter Olivia, she's 21 now. When she was in grade 1, so this would be 16, 17 years ago, she won a Christmas basket. And in there was a Movie Network mug that she was so proud of. Give it to me. And I drank my tea and then my coffee out of it for well over a decade. I broke the handle off. I chipped a big piece out of it. I dropped it, cracked it in half, and I kept re-gluing it. And the last 2 times I re-glued it, I used the Gorilla Super Glue. Worked great. I've since retired the mug. I've got some new ones because it just means too much to me. I'm tired of breaking it and, you know, resealing it. But yeah, if you guys are looking for a good crazy super glue, give the Gorilla Super Glue. Make sure it's the clear stuff, and it helps to wet one side of it. It seems to wick in the adhesive from there. But give it a shot. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at my 5 favorite Gorilla products. I like putting these lists together. It gives me an excuse to talk about tools and things I like to use in my life. And I know most times out of these lists, you've probably tried 3, 4 of the products, but you might learn something about one of them, and that's why I love putting them together. It's why I love watching list videos myself. Anyway, if you guys have a Gorilla product that you've used that you love, or maybe if you had one that you found was just absolute total crap and you didn't enjoy it, share it in the comments. Let me know. And if you're new here, introduce yourself, because I love to meet new community members. And if you want to hang around, hit the subscribe button and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are. And guys, you know I always appreciate you hanging out with me here in the workshop. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Tuesday morning, which means it's time for another edition of Toolbox Tuesday. And this week I got kind of an interesting one for you. If you guys are dog lovers like I am, there's this game that dogs like to play. It's called indoors, outdoors, indoors, outdoors. Every time my dogs are inside, they want to go outside. Every time my dogs are outside, they want to go inside. And I had a huge issue with needing to leave my door open when the weather wasn't real nice because the dogs are out. I don't want to stand there and wait for them. Anyway, so a dog door was the solution. However, we live in a place where we need central air 3 months of the year and heat about 6 months of the year. And we wanted something that was really insulated. So today I want to share with you my thoughts after just over a year with the Petsafe Extreme Weather Pet Door. Alright guys, real quick before we dive in, anything you want to know about me, run by toolmantim.co. You'll find the monthly newsletter, weekly podcast, social media links. I'm on Float, MeWe, Instagram, Facebook, Odyssey, and of course YouTube. And go by the shop where you'll see well over 100 recommendations for products on Amazon, stuff I've used in my handyman business that's made me money or saved me money. We have hand tools, we have cordless power tools, landscaping gear, and of course my favorite, preparedness items. So run by there, check that out. If you end up buying anything at all through there, it supports the content I create and I would be very grateful. So thanks guys. Like I said, last year, just a little before this time of the year, the wife and I decided it was time to install a doggy door. We were tired of playing the in-out game with our 4 Chihuahuas. And we thought, you know what? We need to find something that's not going to let the cold air in. Because we've had some before that just blow and let the cold air, literally blow and blow the cold air in. And they were just miserable. So we started doing a ton of research, read through a lot of reviews online with Amazon. And we ended up finding this Petsafe Extreme Weather Pet Door. The reviews were really good. It had a 4-point star rating out of literally thousands of reviews. And we thought, okay, great. So real quick, if you've never installed a pet door, a doggy door before, it's a lot easier than you think. I've got an old video from a couple of years ago where I installed a pet door. I will link in the description below, so if you want to watch that and see how that works, it's really not that bad. And from there, it's basically a simple process for installing. There were some issues in some of the reviews where people said the interior flaps weren't up to snuff. They broke, they broke down, whatever. But our experience has been nothing but wonderful. Except for one dog for about a week when we first got it was scared. Pepper was a little chicken shit. Wouldn't go through there. But the other 3 barreled right through. And my 2 fat ass cats, they both go through it too. So it's worked really well for us. I want to switch gears right quick, take you inside, show you what all that is about, what it looks like, how it works, the different layers, and then we'll come back out here and finish.
Okay guys, so here is the Petsafe Extreme Weather Pet Door. So I wanted to get down here and show you. This has been a year and a half. One of the biggest complaints I'd heard online was that these flaps would wear out and tear off. Now, I only have Chihuahuas. I went with the small one, but it has held up surprisingly well. Now, like I said, if you live in an area with extreme temperatures, hot or cold, it's important to try to keep this as tight of an area as you can. Our dogs need to come in and go out. That's what they do. So let me show you. This actually has 4 layers of protection, 3 during the day and an extra one at night. I guess 4 if you include the magnets. But let's grab it. So this is what we have. We have an interior flap. Then in the middle, I'm going to show you here. This is actually an insulated pad that goes in between. And then the 3rd layer is another flap that's magnetic on the outside. So you have an outside exterior magnetic flap. Then you have an insulated pad that goes in the middle. And then a 3rd interior magnetic flap like that. As it gets colder, it does have to take an extra second to kind of move back into its own space. But what I really like about this, and probably would have worked better if I had a perfectly flat door, but it also comes with an overnight weather protection cover. I'm gonna put some magnets on this. That's how it works. It stays there fine, except when my dogs go like this. And then they go out in the middle of the night anyway. But it works really well. It keeps the dogs from going outside at night. There's no lock for it, but this has been really good for us because we needed a way for our Chihuahuas to get in and out and be able to use the bathroom, do their business, and not need to leave the door wide open for them while we wait. It has worked really good. I've been really happy with it, and it has held up. I'll get in real close. Like I said, this is a year and a half now. These flaps are used tons of times every day. Even our fat three-legged cat comes through it as often as he can, and it's held up. So let's go back out to the shop and I'll do the closing video.
Okay, so what did you think of that? Easy to install, much more durable than you would think. It literally does keep the cold out, and it comes with that 4th layer snap-on lid that I really like, that if I had to pay a little more attention, I probably could have got to work a lot better. Going to add some magnets, but that's a story for another day. Now, what don't I love about it? It's a little on the expensive side. I paid over 80 bucks for the small one. They do come in up to like jumbo, overweight German Shepherd size, if you're interested in that as well. The bolts that put it together are plastic. I get it, so they don't rust, corrode, or whatever, or they're not sharp on the dogs. So just be careful when you tighten them down. Don't over tighten them. You don't need to put a torque wrench on them, or don't use an impact driver because they will snap. If you have an existing pet door, there's a good chance that the opening that's there, you're going to need to cut it out a little bit further because this has a slightly wider frame with it. Not a huge deal, just a concern. And then on the really, really cold days, that heavy duty vinyl does get a little harder for the dogs to push. It has like a weather memory. So on the cold days, it struggles to close and then it struggles to open just a bit. It does it. Those magnets work great. But just keep that in mind, especially for small dogs. It can be a little more difficult for them in the middle of winter, except for Maisie, because she just barrels straight through, balls to the wall, doesn't even worry about it. That thing's crazy. But the rest of them, they do struggle just a little bit getting in and out of the door when it's really, really cold. But it works. I love that extra cover to keep the dogs in the house at night in case they happen to sneak out in the kitchen. But yeah, so if you're looking for a recommendation on a heavy-duty pet door, the Petsafe Extreme Weather pet door, it's worked great for us. So guys, if you have another recommendation, or if you say, Tim, you're totally wrong, why are you talking about this? No problem, but I love it. It's something that's worked great for us. It's honestly made our lives just a little bit better. I wish I'd have done an initial review of it back a year ago, but I just never thought about it. So I thought, what better time to share than now? And if you have other recommendations, let me know. And if you're new here and you want to hang around, first hit that subscribe button. Then introduce yourself in the comments below. Let me know who you are, what you're all about, the things you're passionate about, the things you know about. Introduce yourself so you can become part of this community. I would love that. And guys, I know you can spend your time everywhere, and I'm grateful that you come here and hang out with me in the workshop, so thank you. And guys, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week. Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Wednesday morning, which means it's time for another Tool Time Gear review. And this week I've got a good one for you. If you guys know, sometimes I go in and secure bank properties after people have abandoned them, and then they send me in to change the locks, and invariably they leave the doors locked, which is fair. I understand that. However, I have to drill them out, enter somehow. Sometimes I'm lucky I can find a window I can climb in, but most times I end up spending a ton of time drilling them out. And the most recent one I did was back in early July, and I spent way too long, almost 45 minutes trying to get into the house. I ended up having to beat part of the deadbolt off with a hammer, simply because it just wouldn't budge. So I ended up picking up an electric lockpick, and I'm going to tell you all about it. All right, guys, real quick, if you're new here and you want to know more about who I am, run by toolmantim.co. That's toolmantim.co. You'll find the monthly newsletter, the weekly podcast, all my social links, and of course, the shop where I have over 100 Amazon products that I recommend, stuff that I've used in my handyman business that's made me money or saved me money over the years. I've got a ton of different categories. We've got hand tools, we have cordless DeWalt stuff, we have landscaping, and most importantly, we got a whole bunch of preparedness items listed there. So run by there, check that out. Okay, guys, so this is an electric lockpick gun, and this came highly recommended to me from a community member that I respect their opinion of, and they have recommended other products to me that have worked incredibly well for me. However, My experience to date with this almost tells me that it's going to go into that category of products I wasted money on so you don't have to. So I've always spent a lot of time watching Bosnian Bill and especially lock-picking lawyers. So if you like watching people pick locks and make it look easy, check out their channel. But after that house in early July where I had a hell of a time getting it drilled out, I made up my mind that I was gonna finally listen to my buddy and go and order this electric lockpick gun. So this is what comes with it. Here is your electric lockpick gun, which basically looks like a little lithium-ion cordless screwdriver. Comes with two heads. I'm not going to take this one off right now. There's this one, and then there's this one, which has more of a standard drill chuck on it. Also comes with a plug, AC adapter, which I'm going to talk to you about afterwards. And comes with a handy-dandy carrying case for all the different picks and rakes. There's a whole bunch in there. See? So, if you ever watch The Crazy Russian Hacker, he's done a video on this. Now, I got to say, before I get into it, I am sure this is a really good, there it is, a really good tool that a lot of people probably really like. Now, first off, and some of it may be my own fault, it comes with almost no literature whatsoever to tell you anything about it. And there is scarce a resource on the internet. There's very few videos, and the ones that are, they're not very clear. Now, I have my suspicions that after a person uses this for a while, then yeah, you might get the hang of it, because the guys I watch, geez, once they use it, knock it out of the park, like 10 seconds and they can pick a lock. You know, all I wanted was something that would allow me to pick a Weiser, a Kwikset, a Slage, any of the most common locks that you see on houses around here, so that I can just stop having to break off, you know, my impact drill bits and bend off bits, and I'd love to be able to get in and out without, you know, attracting the attention of the neighbors. Everything I do is legal. However, I just would rather this have worked. Now, I did some testing, which meant I did some swearing, because I could not get this to work on any of the locks in my house, no matter how much I tried. So first off, I'm going to say, if you have some good how-to FAQ videos on this product, please let me know. Now, let's talk about the issues I had with this. Well, first off, one thing, and I understand that, you know, they're not going to be super expensive. However, let me tell you here right quick. You look at this and you think, okay, Tim probably paid $30 or $40 for this. No, I paid $100 Canadian. And for $100, I expect something, at least something decent. I didn't get it. If I paid $30 or $40 for this, I'd have probably been like, you know what? Not a big deal. Okay, so the first thing are these tension wrenches or tension bars. These are an absolute piece of shit, pardon my French. You can't fit them in any lock or keyway. Everybody I read on the internet says go and buy yourself other tension wrenches. Okay, however, for $100, you think they could have included a tension bar or tension wrench that would have fit in some of these keyways, would have been big enough to get some proper pressure on there. Okay, that's fine. Now, number two. And I read everywhere on there, and it said it was 110, North America ready. Here's the AC adapter. There's the damn plug that came with it. Yep. So now I need an adapter or something. So that's strike two. And strike three, like I said, $100 for something that just I haven't been able to get to work yet. I get it? Okay, no problem. But I'm just not happy with this yet. I will continue to practice on it. However, for $100, I got it on Amazon Canada, but it came from China or Japan or something like that. I can't even find it on Amazon US anymore. It is on eBay, so if you're looking for one, I know I'm not doing a real good job at selling it, but this just hasn't tickled my fancy yet, let's put it that way. You got a forward and reverse button on it, your trigger's right there, loud as can be. Sounds like an electric toothbrush. There's your light to show you what direction you're going in case you don't know. So I don't want to come across as really harsh, but I just don't have a hell of a lot of nice things to say about it. I bought what I thought was a lockpick gun maybe a year or so ago, and I ordered it on eBay, and it turned out to be one of those hand click ones, which are almost useless because you stand there and give yourself carpal tunnel using them. I figured this would work. I am sure that if I give myself enough practice, enough time, enough cussing, I will master this. I just wish there was more literature, more videos online on how to use it and how to properly train with it. And like I said, if this was a $30 or $40 tool, which in some places maybe it is, but the only place I could find it, and I was desperate because I am tired of beating them locks off the doors, but the only place I could find it was on Amazon, and it was $99.99, and it came on a slow boat from China. So for what it's worth, guys, I think this product has promise. When I watched the Crazy Russian Hacker, he managed to make it work. A couple of the videos, I even watched a couple of locksmiths do it, but these guys all had a ton of practice, and I've tried. I absolutely have. So if you guys have any tips for me, let me know. But as of right now, and this does not affect the person who recommended this product has given me tons of good recommendations, and they have really good luck with this product. So that doesn't mean this isn't a good product, it just means my experience with it has been less than stellar. Let's leave it at that. All right, guys, if you guys know of a better lock pick that an absolute beginner novice can pick up and pick a normal household lock, I will pay good money for it. This is past the return date because, well, it took so long to get here. Nothing else I can do about it. So, like I said, if you got any tips for me, throw them in the comments below. If you're new here, introduce yourself, put your name in the comments, let me know what your expertise is, what you're learning, what you want to share with the community. I'd love to hear from you. And you guys know that you have, oh, there it is. I always appreciate that you spend your time with me because I know we can spend our time in a lot of different places, and it's humbling that you'll spend it with me. So I appreciate it, guys. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.
Thanks again, guys, for dropping by the weekly workshop. A new edition drops every week, so keep an eye out. And if you're looking for a solution to such problems as I spilled paint on vinyl siding, or I can't get this heavy picture to stay on the wall, stop by toolmantim.co and check out the Today's Tool section, where I share products and tools that have either made me money or saved me money personally or in my long-running year-round handyman business. And if you found value in this content, please take a moment and share it on your social platform of choice. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.